Mark's not here to defend himself, but he told me the exact same story of what happened. So Christmas Eve, I'll tell the story for him. Christmas Eve, he went to
Feel free
the
to make it not
Chinese.
worse for him under the bus.
I will. I will.
They knew they were going to bid 69 million. Like, even the number 69, come on. Like, this is a fucking meme. Like, they bid 69 million for a fucking joke. And like, it's not 68, not 70, not 69.5, nice round number 69. Like, come on, they're laughing at us. Like, but they've been waiting for like 100 years for this moment.
Let's get it right. 5,000 years. Give me your 2021 Bitcoin price prediction. What do you think that might get to?
But yeah, I'm 750. Where are you?
I'm gonna probably go like a third of that, 250.
You fucking bear. Bitcoiners are the people that I want to be ruling the world and to be setting the agendas, because it's all about don't listen to anyone, be self-sovereign. There's not a single Bitcoiner out there that will say, I know everything and just follow my way. They will literally, everything they will teach you is about don't trust, verify. So that's like literally, you can always trust someone that their first thing they tell you is to not to trust them and make sure you verify what I say. If me and you are walking down the street in Afghanistan, we would be getting yelled at for the fact that we have British accents. We'd be looking at each other going, are we the baddies?
It's a classic Warren Buffett, like the first investment that you should be making is investing into yourself, learning about Bitcoin.
These people are scum. These people are the lowest of the low. They should be working in the banking sector, and they should just die a horrible death. Like, just go away. Like, they're just scamming people. They're creating nothing of value. They're pretending. They get on. They talk a very good game. Like, even Charles Hoskinson, he's pretended to be 50 years old, being his professor. He's like 31.
Oh, PhoneGate, honestly. Yeah, inexpensive. I don't even want to call it a mistake, because I don't feel like I made a mistake on this one.
It doesn't sound like if you left your phone literally next to your bed and then it disappears the next morning, that's theft. It's theft maybe from a 4-year-old, but it's still theft.
Exactly that. You remind him on this one for sure, because it cost me nearly a day and 260 quid later, because I had like a certain time frame to upgrade my phone. So like I was still in contract, so I had to buy myself out of my contract
and get a free phone.
Yeah, exactly. So I wasn't happy about that.
Yeah, but it's still annoying, because not only have you had to buy yourself out your contract, obviously if you had that other phone, you could have sold it, couldn't you? And it's worth however many. Right. Yeah.
Correct. I could have sold it, or the guy. So do you know what? I went there twice in the day. So he said, "Oh, obviously, like it's my job to try and sell, but if you find the phone and you bring it back, then you can get it for free, like the new phone for free." So I've like gone from an iPhone 11 to an iPhone 12, and so I was just like, oh, I like your style, thanks. Let me come back to you on this. And so I went home, no luck, done. Then I had to go first thing this morning as well, before, literally I was there at 9 a.m. So I did a morning meeting, and then 9 a.m. I was the first one there waiting outside the shop because he forgot to give me a SIM card.
Oh my God.
so like last night I called Vodafone, shout out to Vodafone, and they were like, yeah, don't worry, we'll send it in the post, and it only takes like 24 to 48 hours. But when I called them at 8 o'clock, I'd missed the 7 o'clock cutoff, so it wasn't until Wednesday that it would have arrived. So I was thinking, yeah, okay, I can deal with that. But a lot of the apps that you need, they then send you a text to your phone in order to get in. I was just like, yeah, Wednesday ain't gonna work. Yeah.
That's what I was saying about the apps. Like they all download, but they don't work straight away. You have to set them up, and some of them are more difficult than others, especially the finance
Correct.
that have access to your bank accounts and stuff. They don't
Said it.
download and just work. They at least need some type of verification. If the phone has no SIM card in it, all their like alerts are going off. Like this just looks like a fraudster. Just they've got your login, they're downloading the apps, and they're just trying to fire it up on a dummy phone in Asia somewhere. And so
Correct.
obviously they assume that's the case, and yeah, you get blocked out, and it's a bit of a pain in the ass, isn't it, getting everything working?
You said it. And do you know what I felt about it when I was in there? Because I got to start talking to this guy, and obviously in our line of work or your previous line of work, in terms of identity, they
Yeah.
used to use ID scan and the actual physical scanners. Corona hit, they shut down, and now they're moving to biometric checks. He didn't, of course, know specifically who is going to be, in terms of a company, going to be doing those. I'd hope that it was ours, but that's to be kind of debated about. But ultimately, it was just like, yeah, I felt like there's a big loophole there still to be closed, because you could be a genuine person, you don't have the device, and
Yeah.
sometimes you can't always get that same number back.
All
So
right.
how do you get around that? Like let's say, luckily for me, I stayed on the same network. It was easy. Got a new SIM card. Fantastic. But I still think there's a couple of issues there still to be worked out. If you changed your number and you got a new device, it is you.
Yeah.
But how will you then, when they're sending this, text, the two-factor authentication, how do we get you back?
Yeah.
And yeah, that was an interesting one. I think someone needs to solve and crack that one.
Yeah. Because did you have any Bitcoin wallets on your phone with any few sats anywhere? Because that's the one of the thing that terrifies me. Because obviously I've tested every single mobile app there is around
Yeah,
Bitcoin. So I had a little bit of Bitcoin probably like spread around everywhere. And it was only a couple of months ago that I just went, you know what, I'm just gonna go check some of these wallets. And like that
yeah,
10 or 20 quid's worth of Bitcoin was now hundreds of pounds. And
correct.
they were backed up. I had the 24 word saved, but I hadn't tested those. They
Hmm.
just, because it's not like my core like cold storage version of it that I've tested a million times. This is just
Yeah,
like it's like the money in your wallet, right? That's just, but the problem is with when it's Bitcoin money in your wallet, it 10x's every year.
you said it.
Suddenly
You
you're not
said it.
out of a couple £100, it's like a couple of grand in there. You're like, woof, now if I lose this phone, I'm going to be sweating on these 24 words working. So it was only a couple of months ago, I just reorganized my wallet and just sent a load of this money essentially in my like day-to-day wallet and just sent it to cold storage. I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah,
Carrying around a
yeah.
random Bitcoin in my phone? Like, this is silly. Like,
Walking
I,
around dirty.
yeah, I'm expecting this to get either stolen or I'm going to be stupid and lose it. So what? Just as you wouldn't carry around 2 grand in your wallet, like, you
No.
easily have that taken out your pocket, leave it. Your kids could pick it up and put it in the bin, and then your missus empties the bin. It's gone. Like,
It's gone. It's gone. I mean, Mark's not here to defend himself, but he told me the exact same story of what happened. So Christmas Eve, I'll tell the story for him. Christmas Eve, he went
feel
to the
free to make it a lot
Chinese.
worse and throw him under the bus. He's
Oh,
not
I
here.
will. I will. He's wrapping presents and decides to go to the Chinese. Pays for the Chinese with his wallet, and then is walking back, forgets about it. Christmas Day, he needs a few bits and pieces. And he says, oh, well, he was looking around, looks in the car, can't find it in the car. Then looks around the house, turns the house upside down after Christmas Day, looking through the wrapping, looking through the bins, etc. In the end, he ends up cancelling all the cards, and
Oh,
he doesn't find his wallet until a week later.
where was it?
The wallet has found its way into the mop bucket, and one of the kids has clearly put the wallet in the mop bucket. And yeah, it's just one of those things where you think, oh, how did this even happen? It was there a second ago, and now it's gone.
Yeah.
Like, I need it back. Yeah. And the same for me. And the weird thing was, it's like it was backed up at 1 in the morning on my phone. So from a kind of changing from one to the other, all the transfer was nice. So there was no real lag in between because that was the next thing on my mind. Like, when did I last back this phone up? And
Yeah,
what were the last conversations? But that was all good. But on the Bitcoin front, Revolut, of course, you can't take anything off there, but Revolut needed the text message to come through, and all my roundup change was all on there as well.
yeah,
Now it's on there, it's in cold storage. I'm never thinking about using it, but to your point, if it was, hot wallets on your phone that you thought, well, yeah, I don't mind using this here and there, that would have been lost.
yeah. If you
Would
got
have
your
been lost.
Coinbase 2FA sorted out,
Do you know what? I haven't tried that one yet, actually.
'cause that one's a
I'm back. I'm logged back in, but I haven't tried it.
okay, yeah, because you've probably got it set on withdrawals. So what you'll want to do is just get that sorted. If you haven't got it switched on, then you've probably been lucky up to this point, but definitely switch it on. But it's a pain in
Yeah,
the ass because every time I change my phone, the main way to change a 2FA on any of these Bitcoin exchanges is you need the original 2FA to unlock it, to then
yeah,
activate it for a new one. And normally that is fine because you got both phones. And you just go, oh shit, my old phone is in the drawer. I'll just go get it, throw out the 2FA, you link it on, and then it goes, oh, right, you're changing your 2FA? Okay, link to your new device, and you can link it. And because you've proven one 2FA, it lets you change.
yeah.
But if you don't have the original one, it can be a real pain in the ass. Because again, you look like the fraudster. You look like the guy that's hacked into your account, and the first thing they go and do is let's change your password. So,
Let's get in there.
and just to make sure you don't get back in if it can change anything, the first thing they do is change your details. So yeah, you look like the fraudster, and it's a pain in the ass. You probably have to maybe even talk to support. You don't want to be talking to Coinbase support. We all know that. It came up last time, right in the middle of a bull market as well. And then,
Coinbase support. Yeah, I hope you're listening. Coinbase support. Actually, all exchange support. I'm not even just going to out Coinbase. Like, that's definitely an area straight across the board in crypto that needs addressing the support.
yeah, I do feel for them because it's so peaky, isn't it? It's because
Yeah,
they would have been fine. Like this time last year, they would have been completely fine. You'd have got your tickets probably resolved in a couple of hours. But now
yeah.
there's literally 100 times more people coming through, and loads of newbies all getting it wrong. So then, like requests like yours, which are just genuine, just kind of run of the mill. Oh, we just need to probably send down our couple of emails, just verify some details, make sure you are who you say you are. It's coming from the same email address and all that kind of stuff. Because you've lost
Yeah.
your phone now, so you look dodgy. But let's just verify through other channels. Maybe even get you to send in your driving license again or something, just to double check on you. And you'd be open in a couple of hours. But now it's just the queues are so long, and it's purely because of the volume. And
Yeah.
they've all ramped up their support teams, but I must admit they've got worse as well. They used to be a lot better 5 years ago. The people in the support really knew their stuff. Now they've scaled it up, but the training isn't as good. There's a lot of new people
Mm.
there, and I think the bigger these teams get as well. I think it's different when you've got a support team of say 50 people. Those 50 people tend to be pretty decent
Yeah,
because
of
they can all
course.
just stand up and ask. Now they've got support teams of 500. So now it's potluck. Like, there's probably 100 of those who are awful. And
Yeah.
if you get one of them, you're sat in a queue for weeks.
It goes back to where do you think these support teams are as well? Are they truly global? Like I was on the phone to Vodafone yesterday. I gave the classic, this is a no judgment zone. Like she said, "Oh, where do you think I am?" Like, because I heard an accent, and she says, "Where do you think I am?" I said,
She asked
"Oh
you this.
God, yeah, 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 yeah." So she was asking me this. You know what? Like
So
her
what,
customer service skills were like they were on point. Yeah. So
she's challenging you on that. What was her accent? What was it?
yeah, I went with India. Like, and she says no. I was like, oh, okay. And then I was just like, okay, I said Sri Lanka. I tried to be a little bit like cagey, and she was just like, no.
She's going to say Glasgow.
She says, oh, I'm in a country in Africa,
Oh,
so give me a country, guys.
let's think of. I'm trying to think of where the big call centers are and stuff. But yeah, let's go with a big one, Nigeria.
Good shout, but I went Egypt and I got it.
Oh,
That
Egypt.
was,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but you're absolutely right. It could have been anywhere. There's so many countries in Africa, and yeah. And then she started talking to me about like the museums. I've been fortunate enough to go to Egypt, and there's like new museums there, and
I like you
obviously,
working for the tourist board.
yeah. I was just like,
Your
well,
holiday
do you know
here
what?
soon. Come back.
Yeah, literally, she said I used to work in a museum out there as a tourist before I started this role here, and yeah, she was super knowledgeable. But ultimately, coming back to like the Bitcoin and the crypto like currency exchanges, I think certainly customer service is going to be one for, I feel like I'm okay, but how are mum and dad going to do it? How's grandma going to get her Bitcoin back? Like, yeah, it's going to be a long road. And that's something that I think that people really need to, I think we mentioned it on the last one, getting the whole 24 words and you've tested it multiple times. I hold my hand up. I tested mine at the beginning and probably did so a couple months ago when we were on a real big bull run. But I think it's one of those things you should be keeping up to date with. It's the firmware up to date. I know mine is, but is yours? It's everybody's firmware up to date.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And I think this is the good thing. I think in reality, Bitcoin teaches you that any trust in a third party anyway is it's that's going to be the weak link in your security.
Yeah,
So
massively.
if anything, the fact that I use exchanges purely just to make the purchases and get out, and I assume they're going to be crap, which is why I have accounts with multiple. I'm assuming they're going to shut me down for no reason because I've seen it happen countless times in the Bitcoin community. You just send a Bitcoin that is slightly tainted because of their fraud software for whatever reason, thinks that might be attached to Mount Gox or to Silk Road, and boom.
Massively.
And and then suddenly you get labeled as a fraudster, and because they're so busy, once you get like a black flag on you, they can't be bothered investigating. They don't want the fines, they don't want to get shut down, they're terrified of the regulators. So you're one customer, they have another million in the queue, so they just blacklist you and go, thank you for your business, but no more. So
You said it.
so if anything, it's like this is essentially the banking system anyway. The banking system does the same thing. You get switched off at any point. Their customer service is also pretty shit every time I've had to use it. You get
Yeah.
bounced around call centers, very, very hard to get good answers. The only probably banking system I actually would give a thumbs up to would be Revolut. Some of the more fintech things, they've been really, really good.
Is that on the chat?
Yeah, they do it all through the chat. Yeah, and
Yeah,
it works.
I've used that as well.
It
Yeah.
really works well, and I think it's much better than emails. Emails tend to be like, oh, the second you send an email in, if you get a reply within 2 hours, that's like good. But on the chat, you're getting replies back every couple of seconds. They're chatting to multiple people, but it's fine. It's just
Yeah.
it seems to really, really work. But yeah, I just think this is the whole point. Like being your own bank is hard. Relying on third parties is always going to be the link. So rely on them the least amount possible. So have
Absolutely.
multiple ways of buying Bitcoin, and then everything else is on you. So if everything else is on you, you can be completely whatever method of security and management of your Bitcoin you want, do it. But just make sure you practice it, learn it. Don't lock yourself out of your own Bitcoin. Then there's no support calls to answer if you fuck up your own ledger. Right? You're
Yeah,
done.
if you fuck up.
There's
Exactly.
no one to call then.
You know what? This was an interesting lesson as well, but also, yeah, kind of learn along the way because, to your point, Revolut was nice to get back into. It was super easy. But when I came to Starling Bank, which I absolutely love, like it's a great app, I had to like give my phrase, and then I think I had to wait about 20 minutes or so. Um, Barclays, it was so in terms of like getting back in. Trying to think of what else or who else I was trying to get back into. There was a couple along the road that I was just like, yeah, I'm testing how easy it is. WhatsApp was pretty nice. Loads to download, all of the chat. Signal, I needed my old phone because because it gives you the option to kind of transfer all of the old messages, or like if you don't have that, you're just starting from scratch straight up. which wasn't good. I meant to ask, what were you sipping on this evening? What's going on?
Today I've got the Bowmore 12 years single malt.
Oh, nice. Shout out Bowmore.
How about you?
I'm sponsored by Southern Comfort and Lemonade this evening.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm quite. Do you know? At first, I thought these whole cans, like drinks in a can, were kind of like gimmicky, but then I've slowly come to like warm to them. M&S do some great ones, and at a stronger percentage as well. They're like typically about 8%, and they sometimes do some real good offers on them as well. They do a good Jack Daniels. Well, Jack Daniels and Coke is really good. The original Jack Daniels, this is, and they brought out this new flavor, Jack Daniels and ginger. That's like, that's really good.
I think people are quite snobby about their drinks, aren't they? But I've had the cans occasionally, and they're fine. They are fine. But you can't beat a nice straight whiskey. That's
I definitely do.
Yeah, what do you think? I was just I was playing actually with the name of this. You know, like how we talked about the name last week. And I just put it in the notes today, like on the beach of whiskey and Wi-Fi.
I love that. Yeah.
Because I think that it maybe even sums up the podcast more, because that's what we all want to get to, right? It's what I changed my job title to when I left the working world. Like, you were one of the people that reacted to it the most. I'm just like, I love this. It's amazing. I just think that's what we're trying to do, right? This is everything we probably talk about on here. It's where do you want to be, like in your mindset anyway. You don't actually, being on the beach with whiskey and Wi-Fi permanently is actually quite boring. But that's the mindset. You want to be able to go, you know what, if you want to sit on the beach just with some whiskey and then with an internet signal, that's the dream, right? You just do a little bit of work from there.
I'm glad you said that. I'm really glad you said that, because you're absolutely right. You said being on the beach with Wi-Fi is actually quite boring. Yeah, because you will, it's like most things, you will get to a stage where you're like, this is good. I've done this for a while.
Normally,
I actually want to do something. Yeah.
It's literally 10 days. It's like if you have a 2-week holiday, on the day 10, you're like, can't wait to get back home.
Of course.
And it could be paradise. Sometimes 2 weeks is too long. 10 days is perfect.
Yeah, I'm with you on 10 days.
It's great.
100%.
But if you've got the Wi-Fi and some type of purpose is coming through there, whether it be trading, whether it be doing a podcast, whether it be updating an app, like, you just need something to do. It's a mindset thing. So I don't know. It might be, and I've got some good domain names that fit alongside the whiskey and Wi-Fi branding. So if it kind of resonates a little bit, it's we could nick that as a title, and then I've even got a logo for it. I got a crappy little logo done like back in the day.
But do you know what was funny as well is the fact that you came up with this concept before the pandemic, and obviously people used to WFH, work from home, and now there's that phrase, of course, work from anywhere. And so if you're doing the work and the results are coming through, then you can indeed work from anywhere, and that anywhere may be a beach. But we're not afraid of work, and it's not just to kind of say we just don't want to work. It's about, again, where we always come back to, is about the choice, having the choice to do what you want. And if obviously Bitcoin allows you to do that, and the freedom and the choice to do so, then all the power to it.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm loving that. Absolutely. In terms of a name.
Cool. Let's see if that sticks. And we're just making the decision about the other two even being here and just rebranded.
Yeah, I know. Well, you miss out, don't you? You've got your vote already discounted. If you're not here, you're out.
Vote to zero. Like,
yeah.
they vote for cast against. So. I was gonna say, should we talk about the biggest news in Bitcoin over the last 24 hours?
We have to 100% hit me off. What's
your
thoughts?
You know what I'm already talking
Tesla.
about. Yeah, of course.
I'm talking about Tesla. Of course. Yeah. And, I had to do. You know what? It's funny you said this, because when you sent through the agenda, I was just like, I've been busy with my phone. I haven't had like a connection in terms of like to the world. So I looked into it, and this is really, really interesting. They made that purchase in February of this year, and this is where I've come from. So Zach Kikon is the CFO.
Oh yeah.
at Tesla, and he
Well,
made a really good point.
he's the king master now, chief of Quick Coin. He changed his job title to chief of Kick Coin or something.
So what a guy, he's managing the money of Tesla, and he openly says, well, why are we just leaving this money sat here, not really doing much on the balance sheet? They're getting a low interest rate with any bank, if anything. And as we know, the inflation will always beat the rate that we're getting with banks these days, no matter how many millions, or in their case, billions that are sat on it.
Yeah.
How much did they make? It was like, so I got around about $200 million plus in terms of the sale.
That's what they sold. Yeah, they sold 10%. Yeah. So they invested 1.5 billion.
That's right.
They got 43,000 Bitcoin for that, which is just completely insane. Then that was only 2 months ago as well. It's crazy.
Yeah,
ages ago.
Yeah.
In that 2 months,
it does feel ages ago, doesn't it? It's like it just feels normal. Tesla, Bitcoin. It was always going to happen, but it does just feel normal. You're right.
Yeah. Well, I think in Bitcoin, like 2 days is like short term. Anything longer than 2 days is like ancient history, because everything moves so fucking fast. There's always big dramas constantly, big people like scamming and exiting, or someone buying $1 billion worth of it. Like what Sailor said, bank banning it, India bans it, Turkey bans it, like just constant fucking chaos. But yeah, they bought 1.5 billion. In the last 2 months, it's gone up to 2.72 billion. So they essentially they bought 34k, and it looks like they've sold 10% of it at about 60k. So Elon might have been actually partly responsible for the dip from 64 kind of down to, what was it, 47 or something.
That's
right. He was selling around there.
Wait. Did you say dip or did you say crash?
That's the thing. You can get it for long enough. But if you use a Bitcoin, oh my God, like your head melts and it's a crash. Like Bitcoin's dead again.
Yeah.
But you see Elon's tweet? Did you see that? Because freaking Paper Hands Portnoy tweets, because weirdly, you probably missed it because you didn't have your phone, but he bought Bitcoin yesterday morning, and literally later that day, Elon kind of announces he's selling 10%, and he just fucking loses his shit. He's like, what the fuck? Like, I've just bought my Bitcoin, fucking following Elon, and he just dumped on me, and he's ranting. And everyone, all the Bitcoin guys fucking start calling him Paper Hands Portnoy. Like, fucking hell, you've literally had this Bitcoin for like 6 hours and you're already panicking. Like, the price is up from when you bought it, you idiot. But fair play, Elon actually replies to Paper Hands Portnoy and goes, no, I haven't dumped. We literally just sold 10% to check the liquidity and to see if Bitcoin does actually act as cash. Can you store it? And then take value from the gains and invest it in the business. And that's exactly, they've obviously looked at their balance sheet, and that's exactly what Bitcoin, if you're going to hold it as a treasury, you don't just leave it there forever. I know Michael Saylor was saying he's going to never sell his Bitcoin, but that, if you're just a fundamental believer in Bitcoin, then that's fair enough. Like the number go up, it's going to go up forever. So it is silly to sell it. But Elon has different objectives. He's not just going to like build Tesla and then hoard every penny of profit and just hold it in Bitcoin and hope the money goes up. Like, he doesn't care about that. Like, he's already richer than rich before he started Tesla. He started Tesla. He wants to revolutionize the energy sector. So the money that he makes off every single car, he pretty much just reinvests it in scaling up that production, getting autopilot done, getting all the batteries even better, even faster, paying his staff. Like, he's changing the world. So people like him are going to reinvest that money that they hold, but he invested 1.5 billion in Bitcoin. He's got another 17 billion in US dollars.
Yeah.
So ideally, it will be the great day when he puts the other 17 billion into Bitcoin. But I think as a community, we need to acknowledge that Elon is going to invest that. He's going to sell some, and he's going to reinvest it into his business to grow it. He is trying to freaking make Tesla the #1 company in the world and have everyone having a Tesla, everyone having Tesla energy coming into their homes. He can't do that just by hodling Bitcoin. Like, he needs to invest it. He needs to fucking buy stuff.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think, you first get a taste for it and you understand it. And, again, our guy, Zach, the CFO, he understands this has worked. And from a business perspective, I think you'll leverage that even more. And by the fact that, maybe they can manipulate the price, let's be honest, by selling because they are such a whale. Like, why wouldn't they then rebuy back in? And then they're also getting in the bitcoins from people purchasing goods in Bitcoin as well. So I think it's real win-win, but also it opens the floodgates for others to really follow that pattern as well. And it'll be interesting to see because you're right, it's different to our Bitcoin bull, Mr. Saylor, who we'll come on to afterwards as well. But I think it's a wise model, and like you said, Elon's really trying to change the game and he has changed the game in multiple different sectors, whether it's energy, whether it's finance, whether it's automotive, whether it's taking us to Mars. But like this guy is a genius living on Earth right now, and so I think who are we to argue?
Yeah, exactly. And I think we Bitcoin always gets almost pigeonholed as it's only a store of value and it's not
Yeah.
money, because money has to be stable. It's too volatile. It's just no one's going to accept it. Elon is literally paving the way here. He's taken essentially 1.5 billion of real money. He's then left it for 2 months. The quarter's over. They've obviously put their strategy together for the rest of the year. They need a certain amount of cash on hand to reinvest in the business. And he's taken a part of that has come from cash, and a part of it he's gone, let's shave a bit off the Bitcoin. Number one, kind of to prove it even is possible, and we can actually take 100 million off the market without dumping it to zero. Because again, he's just testing it. He's like, can the market take it? Because if the market can't take someone like Elon dumping 100 million on the market, then it's useless. Like if that dumping 100 million destroys the other 2 billion of value he had held, then it doesn't work. It's not big enough. It's for mainstream yet. But if anything, Elon's proven it works. He's taken 100 million off the table, or 272 million off the table, which is huge. The price dipped a little bit when he announced it. It popped straight back up once everyone had digested it and gone, holy shit, this is actually positive. Like, he still owns 90% of it, and he sold 10%. The price has barely moved, and now Elon is funding his business with his Bitcoin gains. This is the perfect model. Like, this is a genius move by the CFO, genius move by the CEO. So it's weird how the Bitcoin community, I think they're split 50-50. 50% of just hate him so much. They're like, we told you, these celebrities come in, they get their cheap gains, and then they dump on us. It's like, and they're throwing him under the bus. And but I don't get that. I think Elon's got a lot of haters, and I think it comes from a bad place. I think it ultimately comes from jealousy, because he's so loved. But he's loved for a reason. Like, there's a lot of people that reach celebrity and they don't deserve the kind of adulation they get. But I genuinely think Elon has earned every single piece of it. And yeah, he's not perfect. He's still a human being. He freaking tweets out bullshit stuff like half the time, but he's a troll. So, Jesus, I'm a troll. I'm sure if I went back over 10 years of my tweets, I would be like, what an idiot, numerous times. So come on, we're all not perfect. And
Elon, absolutely.
He's earned
absolutely. Yeah, and I think we see these geniuses, and they all have their own flaws as well. And my genius that I'll reach out to in this instance is Kanye, right? So Kanye, right? Kanye fucks up a lot, right? Let's not be around the bush. But this guy has mastered, like, coming from absolutely nothing. He mastered the music game. He put out 5 albums in terms of like producing his own album. He produced Nas's album. He gave Pusha T one of like the craziest albums ever. There was also Tiana Taylor, and then he did a joint album with Kid Cudi as well, all within like back to back to back. So that was the music. And then we got the fashion game as well. Did you see the Yeezys, the original Yeezys with Nike? I'm so pissed that Nike and Kanye couldn't get this deal done together and just let him be creative. Like, I like Adidas. I'm an Arsenal supporter. Adidas and Arsenal are together right now. But ultimately, I really, really like Nike, just from like the whole Jordan brand thing as well.
And those rather, wasn't it? The deal was awful.
Yeah, the deal was awful. Really, really awful. Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
that might even been a fixed fee. So I'm like, we'll give you 500 million or something, but we own it. And
yeah.
he just went, no,
Maybe put that.
I want like 50-50 or something. And they went,
Yeah,
well, fuck off. Like, even Jordan doesn't get that. And he's like, well, I'll take my money elsewhere. I'll take my design elsewhere. And they went, you'll be nothing without us. He went, well, let's see. A
exactly.
couple of years later, he's a billionaire, 50-50 with Adidas. And it's like, whoops. Nike sat there like,
What?
we should have given the 50-50.
So someone at night needs to get fired for that. Definitely. If they haven't already, they need to get fired for that, because that was one huge fuck up. Like again, he definitely has his issues. But when you see someone that has been able to conquer certain things, then you just kind of think, I have to let him slide on that one.
Yeah. The
Like,
thing is,
this
the only
guy.
problem is though, like even if they had done the deal, because they don't have the benefit of hindsight, and they wouldn't have known it had been a success anyway. If it
Yeah.
carried on, they'd have been paying him billions, and probably whoever signed the deal would have probably got fired for the fact that why the hell isn't he on the Jordan deal? Why have we given him 50-50? This is insane.
Yeah.
Like, we need to get him off this deal. We're paying him 4 billion a year. This is fucking stupid. And so it'd have been very weird, because they wouldn't have known that, like, because they would have taken all the credit. They'd have gone, this isn't Kanye. This is, he put his brand, but it's Nike that did the bulk of the heavy lifting here. So they're like, why are we paying him billions for when we've got this entire machine that we're paying for? And like, we're getting 50-50, but we have like billions of cost. He has him. Like, he comes in once a week and like freaking throws some ideas on the board and then walks out, and like, that's his 50%. But so it's very weird, because in hindsight, it's obviously a bad deal. But if they'd have carried on with it, I still think they would have been kicking themselves, going, we could have made so much more. But you never know, because literally Kanye created this new model. He's first. So every trailblazer like just disrupts, and wherever he goes, like, it's just, I think the only reason Adidas even did it was just because they were trying to snatch him from Nike. So
it's huge.
it kind of got put over a barrel. Now in hindsight, they look like geniuses. But I bet at the time, even when Nike probably saw them do it, they were like, have him. Good luck.
Yeah.
He's going to
rinse you. Absolutely.
It's not going to go anywhere. It's going to cost you more money than you're paying Kanye, because you're going to pay all the costs out of your profit, and he's going to be laughing all the way to the bank. It's going to be an awful deal for you. But as it was, I don't think anyone could really predicted the success that Kanye's had in outside of music.
Definitely not.
It's been insane.
Yeah. I mean, you got Donda, which is like his fashion brand, dedicated to his mum, which I think is like that high end retail fashion. And then you've got obviously the Yeezys, and they've just gone crazy. I know we're going off topic slightly as well, but RIP to DMX. But did you see the funeral? Have you seen any of the pictures? Like the stage, I was really fortunate enough to go to the Watch the Throne concert with Kanye and Jay-Z, and like, I think that kind of like put that rift between the two, but the theatrical staging between it was just amazing. And like, for him, like, basically he dedicated the lighting and the staging to DMX's funeral. So like, he's even in that game as well, because he kind of reinvented how concerts are being put on to a certain extent. So yeah, it's a real interesting one. But talking of like trailblazers and like doing things first or becoming one of the first, one of the things I saw was ShadyCon on Sunday. Did you see any of this?
No, what ShadyCon?
So ShadyCon was Eminem putting his own NFTs out there. So yeah.
What's he doing?
So Paul Rosenberg and Eminem like came up with well, I don't believe Eminem came up with the concept at all, because Eminem is quite openly said he's kind of a technophobe. He just raps, and he obviously does that really, really well.
They've just used his name, used the word shady. Yeah, and it is shady, ironically, not Slim Shady, just out and out shady, dodgy, scammy. And unfortunately, he's been roped in. They've obviously paid him a load of money, put him in as a face of it, and they're going to scam the audience.
I mean, so I think what he's put out is original beats, original shady beats. He's a big collector of comics and cassettes, original cassettes as well. Classic. He loves his trainers, so that's always going to be one for him. And then and yeah, he's kind of put out, I think, like some digital art as well. So like of like cards and some dolls as well, like shady dolls. So yeah, it's an interesting one. You're a collector of anything?
I used to good old like collect the good old football stickers back in the day.
Oh,
Go,
classic.
everyone used to, didn't they? Like I used to.
Did you complete?
Oh, I never completed any. No, there was always. They were so clever, weren't they? They used to. I used to. I literally know because they used to put certain like players in certain areas of the country, and then put the other football players in the other areas of the country. So I used to have cousins down south, and we used to literally post like swap through the post because they would have like loads of Wayne Rooney, but he was really rare in Chester. So, but I'd have loads of Michael Owen. So I'd like send them 5 Michael Owens, and they'd send me 5 Rooneys. And so yeah, back in the day, of course, the stickers and I various little models and stuff I used to collect. So, but I think that's the genius about this NFT stuff because it links in. A lot of people like art, a lot of people like music, a lot of people
Yeah.
collect stuff. I think there's just about everyone collected something at some point and is interested in art and music to some degree. There's very few that would just go no to all that. So once you say all that stuff on the blockchain,
Mm.
plus there's gains to be had. Like if you get that NMM NFT first, you pay him $500, whatever it might be, and in 5 years' time you sell it for $5,000. Suddenly that just clicks emotionally
Yeah.
to people. It's just tick 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 tick. It's like I like Eminem, I like collecting, I like the artwork, I like his music, and I like making money. Boom! Why
Yeah.
wouldn't I buy
Yeah.
that thing? And that's what's happening. It's a massive, but I literally, this whole NFT craze, it just reminds me exactly of the ICO craze back in 2017.
Yeah.
Bitcoin's on the boom, and there's always the freaking barnacles on the Bitcoin ship. And the barnacles were the ICOs before, and they've all fallen off. Every single penny that went into those ICOs fell off and at the bottom of the ocean now, rotting and they're worthless. The barnacles this time, they're NFTs. They're plugged on to the Bitcoin ship. They're latched on, and they look cheaper. They look more attractive. Bitcoin looks boring. It's the whole meme now that Bitcoin's for boomers and NFTs for the kids. And all the kids are going in, and it's like you're buying here essentially the artwork from these musicians. They're making a killing, and you don't even get the copyright. That's the really confusing thing. Like if I was going
Yeah.
to buy Eminem's artwork for like his new album, if I owned the rights to that, that has value. Because now if
Yeah.
he wants to ever use it again, anyone wants to use that image, they have to pay me. You don't get it. You get the original, whatever that may mean. Because the original is blatantly on the designer's fucking computer. Like the one they uploaded to the NFT website is just a copy of the original, but they say this one's the original. But so you can say to your mates, like, oh yeah, I own the Eminem artwork for his latest album. I have the original, the only one. And they can go, all right, where is it? And I could send you the link to it. Right click, save as JPEG. And I'm like, well, I have a copy of it now. It's like, yeah, but my one's on the blockchain, your one isn't. So therefore it has more value. It feels like there should be something there, but I just don't get it. And I think it's so
I don't
fluffy,
get it.
and
Yeah.
the valuations at the moment are completely crazy because everyone's in on it. Like Portney's talking about it, Gary Vee is talking about it, there's Mark Cuban is talking about it. There's
Yep.
so many big names talking about it, and they come from quite credible backgrounds, but so did the ICO guys. And the kids are following in. And at the moment, the worst thing that can happen, like it's always what happens in every big scam, is in the first 6 months, everyone makes money. So it just goes, oh yeah, I got in, I bought this freaking JPEG for $500. I just sold it for $5,000, and I tell you, and you're like, well, that's true because Gaz isn't lying. You go do one, and you do it, and that you prove it for yourself. And this
Yeah.
is the beginning. It's the bull run. And once Bitcoin hits its peak and starts to come down, NFTs all go to zero. The market just completely plummets, and all these kids that are going to be sat there Because the problem is a lot of people don't take their profit off the table. So
That's so true.
they start with a couple of hundred, they work it up to 10 or 20 grand. They've done great, these kids. And then they just invest it all in NFTs, thinking they've just figured it out. They're buying freaking Michael Jordan's dunk. They're buying Eminem's freaking artwork. They've got all these random things. And on paper, it sounds great. And they've got 20 grand and it's going up by 2 grand a day or whatever.
All day.
One day, it goes down by 90%.
How do you feel on that day? How do you feel on that day? Like, where do you go from that day? Like, suicide.
It's literally, that is actually what happens. And a lot of people never come back from it. There's a lot of people in 2017, because the problem is, if you were in at that point, you were in when Bitcoin was a relatively decent price. Now, a lot of the people that got into in 2017 and invested in ICOs, Bitcoin was between $1,000 and $10,000 probably from most of that time, and they missed the entire run to 20. And obviously, Bitcoin did come down, but it didn't come down. It didn't, like, when Bitcoin goes down 90%, ICOs go down 99.9%. So and that extra 9.9 is a fucking lot. Like, it really is. Like, it's a difference between going from 100 grand and still having 10 grand left to having 50 quid. Like, your 10 grand is still playable money, and you can still build that back up. And it's the same thing's going to happen to the NFTs. And they're going to be there. They're going to be there. They're buying these NFTs when Bitcoin's just 40K, 50K. And when it goes to 500 and their NFTs go to 0, they're going to be sat there going, we could have made a 10x. But at the moment, they don't think a 10x is enough. That's the problem with people. They don't want a 10x. That's not enough for them. They want their 1000x. They want to become, like, invest their $100 and make it $1 million. And it's well, the whole freaking Bitcoin space is just wrought with people that have either traded, tried to invest in shit coins, and they've just got wrecked, and they're not here anymore. And they really started in early. And if they had just bought Bitcoin and held, they'd have been financially free now. But they tried to outsmart the market, and they invest in stuff that you don't really believe in.
I'm glad you said this. Yeah, I'm really glad you said this, actually, because I think it's always a theme of all roads lead back to Bitcoin. and I mean this genuinely and not flippantly, in terms of, like, they wouldn't be here if it were not for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Because in your article, I'll reference it, in terms of all of the shit coins, like, if it wasn't for the original white paper and Satoshi pulling out the white paper and obviously creating Bitcoin, there's no Ether, there's no Cardano, there's, you name them. I think someone gave me a number the other day of like 8,000 coins out there, so 7,999 shit coins out there, or proof of concepts or proof of works that people are buying into, that I will say some will make it. The rest will just break you and break the bank and leave you rinsed. And then you've got NFTs. Would NFTs be here if it wasn't for Bitcoins?
Of course it wouldn't.
Absolutely not. So, ultimately, let's go back to the source. Let's go back to where this all came from. And let's just, kind of, I think, to your point, everyone's just trying to make those crazy gains because they feel like they've already missed out on something that has so far to go. But it just feels alien to them to do the right thing. It's hard to just kind of say, I'll settle with this.
Yeah, because in reality, like, the way that they're getting away with it by using the uniqueness of saying it's on the blockchain, it's decentralized. And it isn't. All these NFT websites are owned by a couple of people. So if they wanted to just switch the ownership to themselves, they just could. It's nice and easy. So I don't see NFTs as anything unique. They are they're just layering on blockchain and going, it's revolutionary. It's not. Like computer games, because the one that I always think of is FIFA. Like, you have the FIFA cards in there, all the players come out, different kits come out, different qualities of players, and people pay thousands of pounds for these FIFA points and stuff and invest it in that thing. So those players have value. They are relatively unique because FIFA makes sure certain skill sets, certain players are genuinely rare. So they have scarcity. So they have a lot of the values of money to a certain extent. FIFA coins, it's almost like it's a version of money, but it's centralized. If at any point FIFA just want to give themselves all the money, or they want to take all your money away, they can. It's a click of a finger. So that's the problem with decentralization. Like, it's not
Or
decentralized.
just bring out next year's game.
Exactly. And they just completely devalue your currency you had, and then they move you to a new game. So
Yeah.
that's exactly what NFTs are. Like, they are essentially, they are just computer games, and they're creating fake scarcity. They could change the rules at any point, but they're not decentralized. It isn't like Bitcoin with 21 million, and that scarcity is fixed and is genuine and is outside of government control, and you can genuinely take custody of your own items. You can't do a lot of that with these NFTs. They are literally, it's just like a computer game, and people are uploading JPEGs saying there's only 5 of them or only 1 of them, and it's just fake scarcity. Like, if that person wants to go online and put another 200 on, he can, because it's a fucking JPEG. Like, it's not, no one can just go, oh, I'm going to download 1 Bitcoin and just upload 10. It's like, no, like, you have your 1, like, that's it. So yeah, it's just, if you don't get the core reasons why Bitcoin is valuable, which a lot of people don't do the work, they just think, I've missed out. Its only uniqueness is on the blockchain. So this is something else on the blockchain. So therefore, it's newer and it's the new Bitcoin. It's sexier. So I'm going to go to this. But they don't realize that the blockchain bit isn't the important bit. You know, the blockchain is literally a database. Databases are not exciting. They've existed. Just put it in Excel.
Yeah. Just you're absolutely right. They're not exciting.
It's about the security around that spreadsheet. As all the transactions happen and the core 21 million, can the spreadsheet be edited? And if the spreadsheet cannot be edited because of decentralization and all the miners around the world securing that spreadsheet is now very, very valuable. If one person can go in and just edit their own balance, it's just an Excel spreadsheet. Yeah. And that's what every shitcoin is. And because one person can go in and edit their balance, they can just go, oh, it's 100 million of this of X shitcoin. I'll just change it to 200 million. And they don't need to tell you. They have control. It's essentially all you're doing there. If you created an even worse version of the banking system, because that's exactly what they do with fiat. They go, oh, we need another $4 trillion in the market. Oh, that's going to take us forever to do. The Fed just goes, no, it won't. How long does it take me to type 4 and then 9 zeros? There you go. There's your 4 trillion. It's like, boom. And that's exactly the same with these centralized shitcoins and NFTs. It's just someone with control of a database. And if they want to edit it, they can. And you're trusting that they don't. Yeah. And maybe they don't for a period of time. But you know what? Eventually, human power and corruption and greed, even if the original founder doesn't do it, and this quite often is what happens, the original founder has the right kind of concepts and really wants to be pure and run this project properly, but eventually they get bored, they're probably super rich, they fuck off, a different management team comes in, they haven't made the riches that the founder made, they want to make a bit more. So they just bend the rules a little bit, just to favor themselves. And once that bending starts to happen, the gates are open to corruption now, and over time, humans destroy it. And the people that always lose all the money are the people down the bottom, trusting in the system, that are usually the poorest, and all the value gets shrunk up to the top again.
Talking of trusting in the system, I found it funny listening to the radio today, because that's all I had in my life before my phone was sorted. People, I laughed to myself. People were outraged that Boris Johnson may have lied about his comments about letting COVID rip. And I was just thinking, are you for real? Like, you believe that he's the first politician to ever have lied to you? Like, come on, give me a break. Like, Labour thought, well, I think the Labour were going to try and bring him forward to kind of say, clear up your comments. Clear up your own comments. Clear up every politician's comments. Coming back to your point about Bitcoin, like, it's clean, it's pure, it's uneditable, it is what it says on the tin. There is no change. So you can't say, oh, I said this one day, but I actually meant this. It is what it is.
Exactly. Anyone can audit the code and it's there. It's on GitHub, and thousands of developers have downloaded it, audited it for themselves, and it is what it is. Exactly. And it makes me laugh when like people challenge politicians, and they like it's like it makes me laugh that they weirdly I think over the last year they've challenged them barely at all. Like calling a politician a liar historically has been completely open game, and it's just been constant. And everyone,
Yeah.
if you ask anyone on the street, like, do you think politicians lie? They'll just be like, is that a trick question? Like, it's
Yeah.
Catholic. Like, of course they do. Like, it's the whole joke. Like, how do you know when a politician's lying? It's like their mouth's moving. So it's been funny over the last year that all that's gone away. Because suddenly we've been required to trust them, because now they're suddenly telling us things that stay at home, have the jab, protect the NHS, and all this stuff. And it's been very interesting that all the kind of skepticism around politicians has just disappeared.
It has massively.
If you ask the average person, do you trust Boris on this topic? They'll say yes. So then if you ask them, do you trust Boris on any other topic? They'll say no. It's like, well, that's interesting, isn't it? Like, why do you trust him on the one thing that weirdly is the reason why you're stuck at home for a year? But if he spoke to you about your child benefits or helping the NHS or funding for your school, you would instantly think he's bullshitting and sandbagging extra money elsewhere. Well, why do you believe him on this one then?
Yeah. The same man that can't even give you a straight answer of how many kids he's got.
No. It's so stupid that like I feel like I'm living in a fucking episode of Black Mirror. Like, this isn't real. Like, back to Elon, it's like, this is a simulation. It's stupid, this one. Reset it. I want to go in another version of the simulation. This one's too stupid. I figured it out. It's all fake. You went too stupid with it. But I keep waiting for the simulation to be reset, and it isn't. I'm still living in it.
Well, we got like 67, 68 million people in the United Kingdom. And, you know, we are trusting that guy that can't even give us a straight answer on his procreations. Like,
yeah. If you can't be honest about that, then come on.
Yeah, come on.
That's a foundation of sand.
Yeah.
You're trying to build a skyscraper on it.
Absolutely. Mike Winkelmann was the guy who created the NFT of his everydays that sold recently for 69 million. I found him like a really interesting guy. I watched a couple of interviews, but again, still I couldn't get it. But it also made me think, again, going back to like DMX and also Prince as well, of how he changed his name when he went through the whole like symbol. And that was because he was like a slave, as he inscribed on his face, to his masters. And this was all around like owning his masters. He said, I will not put out any music under that name until I own my masters. And he made it a real point about it. And again, where I'm going with this is Bitcoin allows you to be the controller of your own destiny. You own that. No one can take that away from you. And it's amazing that somebody would pay that amount of money to own something that I just still can't get my head around.
You know what happened straight after? Do you know the people
No.
who bought it?
No.
It's the affinity scam just kept going. So I think that the guy, what's his name again? Beeple or something?
Yeah, Beeple. Yeah. So he goes by Beeple, real name like Mike Winkelmann. Yeah.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah. So he's a genuine artist, and like he had nothing to do with NFTs. He's just done. I think he did a single image for 5,000 days.
That's right. Yeah.
He put the 5,000 images into one, and then NFT'd it. So he's a genuine artist. I've looked at some of his art. It's crazy and out there. Some of them completely disgusting type of imagery. I love it. I buzz over all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
He would make loads of money just selling that, and I think he does. I think he's made loads of money over his career anyway, just selling this artwork as prints. And I would buy some of his prints and put them in my house. I think they look great. But the whole affinity scam of the person that brought it was the second they brought it, they had a whole NFT website set up to break his NFT down back into 5,000 pieces and sell them one by one, and instantly relisted them within 24 hours for 100 million. And guess what? They sold. The idiot or the kids went on there
All the
and
kids.
brought all these NFTs. And obviously, with the way the NFT works as well, is like once they are now the original owner. So once it gets resold to one kid, if they sell it again, the kickback keeps going to the original guy.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the whole point. They essentially brought and it all looks very, very scammy the way they listed it in Christie's, because it's the main place where they sell art. And it makes no sense to sell it there because they take like 10% commission. So people lost like 7 million there by selling it at Christie's. He could have just sold it on any other exchange. Like that's the whole point of crypto, right? You can sell it anywhere. You're outside of the man. But they wanted to legitimize it. They wanted to get they literally paid 7 million for Christie's for marketing because it was on their website. It all got mainstream attention then because, oh, if Christie's are listing it, it's not just a crappy JPEG.
Of course.
It's got legitimate. This is going alongside Monet's and Leonardo's and freaking Van Gogh's. Like this is a serious piece of artwork. They sell in the grand market.
Christie's is worldwide. You know, everybody knows that Christie's is an art house and is a dealership. So 100%.
So I'm not sure what level Beeple was involved in it, and I think he got a very good payday. And to be fair, he's a great artist, so I don't begrudge him. But the people that brought it, and I'm pretty sure this was all agreed beforehand. They weren't. This isn't a genuine auction. Like they got in. They knew they were going to bid 69 million. Like even the number 69. Come on, like this is a fucking meme. Like they bidded 69 million for a fucking joke, and like it's not 68, not 70. Not 69.5, nice round number 69. Like, come on, they're laughing at us. Like they're very, very rich crypto guys that have brought that, knowing full well they've obviously made their gains. You know,
they were. You're absolutely right. They were crypto guys.
Yeah, plenty of billionaires in crypto that continue want to it's their plaything and they love it. So 69 million, number one, isn't a huge amount of money to them. But number two, they knew they could just make 100 million the next day anyway, and they did. They literally flipped it and made 31 million.
It's funny how this story hasn't then come out as well, isn't it? You know, this is the real story behind the story. We just see in the headlines, but yeah, I wasn't made aware of like the backstory afterwards with what happened.
Yeah, because that bit's complicated and it doesn't have the Christie's name on it. So they don't publicize it. It just disappeared. It goes off onto a little random NFT website, gets all split up and then sold to a load of noobs. And no one's writing about that. The only people that write about that is the crypto space. Whereas when it's on Christie's, that hits mainstream media. So they get the good thing listed. People hear that, and then they just start searching for NFTs. And that's how they capture people. It's genius. And they paid 7 million for that marketing, and it's paid back handsomely.
Yeah, and you touched on something earlier as well. Which again isn't really being covered, is India and Turkey and the inflation that's happening there and not really being talked about very much. Now we have and I say we, like you still work, you know where I'm talking about in terms of referencing, and you can edit that part out. But you know, in terms of Turkey, so we have a Turkish arm of the business, and they have been quite openly saying, you know, we're experiencing a lot of inflation, and during the pandemic, like we're still in a pandemic, you know, again, India are recording record amounts of new COVID cases every day, but they were saying we need a pay rise, you know, through March until March now, and we're now in April. They were like, we need a pay rise because of inflation.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, their government are saying or increasing the Turkish lira to the point where it's hard, of course, for their citizens to live.
I think it's 16%. I think the last couple of years it's 16%. And that's the actual published inflation.
Of course.
Which means it's likely much higher.
I think someone said on one of our broadcasts, it's nearly 40. I think they said something like 49%.
Oh,
you know, so yeah.
49
Absolutely.
in a single year. So
Yeah, in a single year.
that's insane, then, isn't it? If you haven't had a 50% pay rise, you're earning less money.
Correct.
If you're
Yeah.
on 50 grand this year, essentially next year you're on 25.
Yeah. The loaf of bread is increased. You've got to feed your family. And again, it's in a time of where business is very difficult to come by. People are not only losing their money, they're losing jobs.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is there to help them, but yet the government don't want that because they see it as an escape, and therefore their people can escape by utilizing something as, you know, I think this goes back to another point as well, which we'll come on to in terms of the Frank Gustra and the Michael Saylor debate. People can't really get their head around Bitcoin being multiple things all at the same time, because we've talked about it. We've got the network, we've got the store of value, we've got it as a currency in terms of Bitcoin and Tesla. If people want to use it to purchase goods, it does multiple things all at the same time, and it isn't just one. And people find it, I think, difficult to kind of get their head around this, which is why I kind of personally love this space, because there's so much still to learn from it. But what's your thoughts on the India and the Turkish inflation?
Yeah, well, I saw that post on LinkedIn, and I made the
Yeah,
comment, didn't I? Because
yeah.
especially the Turkey one, where I'm seeing the exchanges get shut down, supposedly for money laundering, and yeah, the Turkey seemed to have just put a blanket ban on trading Bitcoin. And I think it's on
Mm,
trading it. Don't think they've completely banned it. From what I could read, it seems like you could technically still hold Bitcoin, but you're not allowed to trade it now. So they're shutting all the exchanges down. And yeah, and all the headline news is it's fraud, it's money laundering. Essentially, it's a load of drug money going in, getting laundered, coming out as Bitcoin. It's like
mm.
there's zero evidence. It's all speculation, and
Yes, sir.
it's the easiest thing for any government to say is just, oh yeah, money laundering, drugs, financial, they're financing terrorism, and everyone just runs away. It's like, oh right, well that sounds legit. But when you look at it, it's like, well, why are Turkey doing it right now, and why did Venezuela do it a couple of years ago? It's
Of
because
course.
the people have identified that their currency is going to zero, and their savings are going to zero, so they need a store of value, and if it keeps getting worse, then they may need to actually flee. So
Mm,
if you do convert into gold, into another precious metal, into property or something, that would save you if you stay in Turkey, uh, provided the government don't still just come and get that. Because any physical asset that the government can get their hands on, then they could still come round and just pass a law to say holding over an ounce of gold in your home is now illegal, which is exactly what they did
mm.
in America in 1933. Same with property. They can just tax that away from you. They don't need to
Of
physically
course.
come and take it. They can just go, there's a new tax, and it's a properties tax, and now 10% of the property you owe us every year. Knowing full well most people can't afford that, they're like, oh, right, by the way, if you don't pay your taxes, we will just claim the property back. So
Mm,
they can steal everything from you other than your Bitcoin. And that's exactly what the Venezuelans realized, because that's exactly what the government did there. They stole the property, they stole the businesses, they stole the money, they stole every bit of precious metal they could to try and keep the economy afloat. Instead of just admitting it was over and trying to do a proper reset, they just keep stealing until it's too late. So people flee. And that's again like being self sovereign and having something that's genuinely decentralized. And if you hold your keys, the government can't tax you. They can make it illegal for you to hold it. They can.
yeah.
They don't know you have it, and you can hide it. And you can, even if they get so tyrannical that they're going to knock on your door with guns and put a gun to your head, if it's getting to that point, you can flee before it happens and get through a border with 24 words scribbled on a bit of paper in your pocket and get out and start again. And it's crazy. And again, I think we talked about this again last time, where in the UK and in Europe and in America, we think this is crazy, but literally in the last week, we've seen it happen in Turkey right now, haven't we? And
Thank you.
I
Yeah.
don't doubt in the coming years we're going to have Turkish refugees all across the world. And the ones that are going to make it, or the ones that are going to have a head start, are going to be the ones that grabbed some Bitcoin, got some of their life savings into Bitcoin, and took it with them. Because I can guarantee you, all their bank accounts going to get frozen. They're not going to get gold out. They might be able to smuggle a couple of diamonds in their pocket and get that through the airport, but it's they're going
I
to be.
mean, you'd be foolish to think that they're not going to be checked, like physically checked. You'd be foolish to, absolutely.
Yeah, well, it's crazy even now. Like you try and get through a European airport or an American airport with more than $10,000 on you, like it will be confiscated. It's a known thing that like you're just not allowed to. Like you have to, number one, declare it, and then number two, you're still very much at risk. And there's laws where it says they can confiscate over $10,000 or £10,000 in UK worth of value from you with no reason. They don't need to charge you. And then it's crazy. This is the one thing what they completely flip the law on you. You're guilty before proven innocent. So you have to prove that the money or value or the gold or whatever you had on you when they confiscate it, you have to prove the legitimacy of it. It's assumed guilty. So they hold it for as long as they want, provided it is you can't prove that you're innocent and the reason you were going to take it out of the country is legitimate.
Yeah.
That's here right now.
Yeah.
They just don't like people moving large amounts of money around. And imagine what it's like in Turkey, where they know people are trying to leave with their life savings. And they're like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to Britain for like a 2-week holiday. They're like, we know you're fucking never coming back. So you've probably got 100 grand on you, which is your life savings. You're going to try and get through the border. And then they're going to be fucking checking everyone, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just checking my phone because I wanted to make sure that I referenced the book correct. Of course, I had to then go into Audible for the first time since getting the new phone back. You know how it's all coming back. But the author, and I was right, Jeff Booth, and the book is called The Price of Tomorrow. Definitely worthwhile checking out. Again, it's on our favorite topic, Bitcoin, and why you should hold Bitcoin. But ultimately, he talks about exactly this. Chapter 8 in particular, he talks about this guy, Alex. Alex was based in Sarajevo. And I didn't know this, so I'm just simply reciting what I've been listening to. But Alex is based in Sarajevo, and he's a young kid. In 1984, Sarajevo was fortunate enough to hold the Winter Olympics. Fast forward 10 years on, and the country is broken up due to religion. Which is obviously a whole nother topic, which typically causes war, and has become a war-torn country. So they were living their best lives. You know, they had pensions plans. As I said, they hosted the Winter Olympics, and he was having to flee with his mum and dad overnight. You know, to your point, you could just be living a normal life in Turkey. Everything is fine. And then all of a sudden, you've now got to escape over the border. And how do you escape with all this money? You can't. You need to hold it in something like Bitcoin because it's easy to then memorize your 24 words or get it into prison safe, like as Ross will know, a prison safe tool. all day long. Or what I would use, shout out to Crypto Tac, I would something real secure that obviously you can move easily. But you're right, you can't go over the borders with more than $10,000 or £10,000. So this happened to him. By luck or through luck, he then ended up in Canada. And he's in Canada, doesn't speak a word of English. Anyway, you know, he makes it. And I believe that his dad stayed in the country, but his mum and him fled. Now, they thought that she wouldn't ever go back because she always knew that the husband was there. I'm probably messing the story up. really bad. So I apologize, Jeff. But it is ultimately all about the ability or the foresight to know that this could happen to us. You know, it's certainly in this time of unrest where we're seeing politicians like, you know, Trump get into office. Who would have ever thought that that would have happened? And then Boris get into office again. Who would have ever thought that that would have happened? These things 5, 10 years ago would have been unfathomable, but it's now happened. And we don't know what's around the corner. And the only way to protect yourself is coming back to where we're going to Bitcoin.
Exactly. If you've got money, you can start again. So yes,
yeah, exactly right.
You can take it wherever you want. They can't take it from you, and yeah, and the network keeps going. Provided the internet's still on, Bitcoin still keeps chugging along. Every 10 minutes, a new block comes out with all the transactions on it, and everyone who owns their Bitcoin still has their Bitcoin. And yeah, I think we touched on it a few times there. So let's go into the debate around gold, because typically, and this is the whole, and this is why I think gold bugs are so raging right now, because this whole thing we just discussed then is, other than getting it through the borders thing, their whole use case was, this is your protection, this is your hedge, this is your store of value. The fiat currency is out of control, governments are out of control, so store your wealth in gold. It's a scarce asset, it's going to hold its value, and technically they thought it can't be seized, just hide it under your bed, put it in a vault or something. But obviously it doesn't work on the transportability thing. It's not as scarce as Bitcoin. There's a whole lot set up on it. But they've been waiting for like 100 years for this moment.
Let's get it right. 5,000 years.
Oh yeah, well, since gold, since gold.
The discovery of gold, right?
Yeah. But I suppose it's like the last 100 where fiat really lost control, right? Where they, because the thing is that gold was used as money, wasn't it? It's worked
100%.
Over the last 500 years, it worked as money for 450 of them. It's only since pretty much between 1940 and 1970 that we came off the gold standard. Suddenly money got out of control. And that's when governments got huge and the fiat kind of craziness all took over. And the gold bugs realized the value of gold, realized that money and human society has never been better. When you look at the artwork, the architecture that came out the hundreds of years ago, they're amazing. The cathedrals, the artwork, and that's all low time preference. It was a sound money. So they've always strived and wanted sound money back, and they've been waiting for the collapse of fiat. And they've been They've been sat there hodling their gold, going, can't wait for it to collapse because that's going to be our day. And then 12 years ago, a little guy called Satoshi comes along and goes, here's gold 2.0, motherfuckers. And boom. And now suddenly we've stolen their night or their day in the kind of the sunlight and the spotlight, because they are right. They are right. 98% of their argument is bang on. They've just, the final 2% of the solution is wrong. It's not gold now, it's Bitcoin. So there was a great debate, wasn't there? Frank Gressa from the ultimate gold bug. I think he owns loads of gold mines all around the world. So he's in charge of digging all this gold out of the ground, against the Giga Chad himself, Michael Saylor.
Yeah, I'd never really come across Frank Gressa before. I'm a big YouTuber, and I hadn't ever seen him on Stansbury Research before, or any of the kind of Kitco I watch a lot of. So he was new to me, and I felt like he really tried to lure Michael Saylor into traps, but Michael was just way too smart to ever get into there, because I don't know if you saw before, he was just like, I'm open to purchasing a little bit of Bitcoin, and if Michael can convince me that I should own it, then you know what, I'll do it.
Yeah, that was so disingenuous. He had no intention. He went in with a completely closed mind.
Correct. It was never any intention whatsoever. And all of his arguments were, I feel like he tried to not make it personal, but it was around about Michael's comments about how it's going to 5x or 20x and go to a certain price. And he didn't really address Michael's responses about how it was a sound technology, how it was, to your point,
If anything,
transportable.
yeah, if anything, I think he confirmed that Michael was correct.
Yeah.
And then which is what I thought was brilliant about the whole debate, is the fact that the main Goldberg argument against Bitcoin was it's so good that it's such a threat to governments and fiat that it's going to get shut down and going to get banned.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's literally admitting it is gold 2.0.
Yeah.
But if anything, he's going, but he totally forgets that gold was supposed to be doing this. Gold was supposed to be the downfall of fiat, where everyone was just going to sell their fiat and buy gold one day.
Absolutely.
So that argument doesn't make any sense, because it's like, well, your whole gold argument was never going to work then, was it? Because the second gold became too valuable, governments were going to come shut it down again, just like they did.
Not only shut it down, they will confiscate it from you.
Yeah. Well, and most of the gold is owned by the banks anyway, so they don't even have to go anywhere. Like he's okay. He's a billionaire, so he probably owns a bank, and so he can go into his bank vault and he will be all right. But for the plebs on the street that can only afford a couple of grand of gold, then they're going to have to let someone else have custody of that, and then it's going to be very easy to confiscate. And yeah, I thought it's very, very interesting that his main argument was this is eventually going to become a threat to the government, and they're going to come ban it. And that was his core argument. So it's like, wow, it's crazy. Like last time I've heard like someone like say Peter Schiff, who's the typical gold bug that I've heard the arguments, and I've heard him over the last 10 years debating against Bitcoin. And he started like his original arguments were a Ponzi scheme. It's just a big scam. This is tulips. It's just magic internet money. Like it's just for criminals. Like all that stuff in this latest debate, none of it came up this time. This guy virtually acknowledged all of those previous arguments were gone.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is gold 2.0. And its biggest threat now is as it's on the journey of taking over, it's going to get shut down. You're going, but that means you're admitting it's on the journey to take over, which no one on the other side of the aisle ever conceded to us before. Never. Yeah. They just said it was a scam and it was a joke. It's going to zero. He was saying
if it's so good, why are you trying to, or if it's so bad, why do you think the government would try to shut it down?
Yeah. And he'd always caveat his point with, I like Bitcoin, but I don't own any, I own gold. So it was a very interesting debate. I'm sure Peter Schiff was raging because he didn't get all his classic talking points out, because he always likes to talk about, oh, it's just used for drugs and terrorist financing. And if you drop in all these keywords, the average listener will just go, oh, wow, he's hit so many triggers in my brain that no matter how good Bitcoin is, it's still too bad. It sounds like if it's used for criminals, and even if it funds one bomb that goes off and blows up a school, then therefore I'm out. Without them realizing that is such like a straw man, because where do all the other bombs get paid for in? It's US dollars. So we're going to ban US dollars. Like, there's bad people around, and they're going to use money to do the bad things. Like that isn't the problem. Like guns aren't the problem. It's the person holding the gun that fires it at someone. They're the problem. Like, so, and he didn't. And if anything, I respect him for not using those cheap shots, because so many cheap shots to have. And he actually just tried to pick on the genuine ones. And if anything, he went cheap on Michael himself.
Yeah.
Tried to undermine the character.
It kind of made me realize as well the differences between your traditional gold book and I guess your gold 2.0, Michael Saylors of this world, because you could see that Michael had really done his research prior to that debate. He talked about the 100 hours of video content that he had been watching, and Frank didn't really show me that. His arguments weren't really there in terms of it, and ultimately, I think Frank would have come off better had he have said, "Yeah, I get Bitcoin. I just don't really get Bitcoin." If you know what I mean. He would have just been easier to just be like, "Yeah, maybe it is the future and maybe I should hold both." Because I only saw this going one way, and not just being, I only saw it as either a draw or Bitcoin. because there's arguments for both. Because ultimately, fiat isn't the right way to go. We've seen it, it doesn't work. But gold isn't going in the same direction as where Bitcoin is. We've seen it. It's not necessarily had its time, but it's not the time.
It,
It's the second horse in the race, or third or fourth.
yeah.
It's not the horse.
Well, the day the internet got created and the entire globe got connected, gold became irrelevant because
Yeah.
before then, to pass value to each other, like we'd have to either go through a bank or we'd have to physically be in contact with each other. So it didn't. So in that world, gold is fine. If I need to
Yeah.
give you some money, but now suddenly when the world became tiny and I can send value to someone in China in 2 seconds and send value to you in 2 seconds and anyone else in the world, then I cannot do that with gold. I cannot. And Michael Schiff will say you can, but that's if you digitize it, have a third counterparty, and then you're sending like IOUs. Like that doesn't count. Like sending IOUs doesn't count. Like I'm not sending you the physical gold. Whereas the Bitcoin, I send you the Bitcoin and you own it. No one can take it from you, and that is the difference. Like you're not trusting anyone. And in the whole market we're describing here is, our governments have lost control of their currency, and they are very likely to try and steal from their citizens. So if I'm just sending you gold IOUs, they'll take them. They just go straight to the gold exchange that I've used to send the gold to you, and they'll just cancel it, and they'll just freeze it, and it's gone. So like you had to, the internet had to exist before you could create money for the internet. That's the problem. So gold was great 5,000 years ago, and the whole scarcity argument as well around gold, it is completely blown out of the water. Like Frank quite cleverly, I think, got ahead of it and went, "Don't use these arguments against me," which was the new alchemy of nuclear fusion to create gold and then asteroids. But it's like the fact that those two things do exist, you can't deny them. Like human technology continues to advance. Like, I couldn't believe it. If you go back 100 years, it's pretty much almost 100 years to the day that the Wright brothers first flew a plane.
Yeah.
Which is insane to think that they literally got like this wooden freaking plane and flew it for the first time only 100 years ago. And then you compare that to where we are now. You've got Elon Musk probably a couple of years away from flying to Mars.
Yeah.
So when you see that level of innovation and the speed that we get there, to think that we can't create gold from nuclear fusion really easily, and we can't go in, and we know there's asteroids 10 times the size of Earth flying around that are solid gold. So the supply of gold is literally infinite. It's as large as the universe. So it's a matter of time till we can access that at some point. The problem is there's no point in ever accessing it, because if you did manage to get your spaceship to land on that gold planet, the second someone knew you'd done it, the price of gold goes to zero. so there's no point. There's no point you even going there, because your whole mission would be like, oh, there's like the entire value of the world's worth of gold here, and it's like, no, the second you land, the asteroid's worthless. So because now you've inflated the supply from like our tiny, like little tiny pot of gold that we had on Earth to 1,000 times more than we could even imagine.
But and again, I don't think he really. He didn't really address Michael's point when he, again, through his research, he picked the two biggest gold mining companies and their stores of values, and obviously said, they're not even holding it themselves, and they've got so much in reserve. Like, what about that? And every year there's been a 2 to 5% increase. So it's not scarce.
No, they're manipulating the market, and I wish Michael had gone in on him a little bit and gone, you're manipulating the market. Like the gold miners, you have access to billions worth of gold, but you don't release it onto the market because you'll dump the price, which indirectly then dumps the value of your company because it's valued in gold. So you literally are there's only like 10 people on the planet that actually know how much gold there is on Earth, because they're the ones who own the mines, and they all just have dinner together each year and make sure that they go, let's just keep the supply and keep the price ticking up, because we need to maintain the whole story of it's a store of value. So we don't want it
Absolutely.
volatile. We don't want any big 20% dips, 30% dips, or even 30% increases. We just want it ticking up nice and steady, pretty much
Mm,
along with inflation, because that's our story. That's what gold is. It's reached its price and it just ticks up now. So I love to him to just to attack a little bit and gone, like just as we can verify on the blockchain that there's 21 million Bitcoin, I would love to have gone to Frank and gone, let me audit your mine that the amount of gold that is in there is what you say it is. Let me
yeah.
audit it. I'd have loved him just to go, and I'll send a guy to come with you and you audit. It says on your balance sheet you have like 30 billion worth of gold in your mine. I want to come verify that.
Yeah.
I would
That
love
would
to
have been
do it
awesome.
because then it's
That
like
would have been awesome.
let's verify the supply of this gold because I I'm super skeptical. I think there's 10 times more gold than they're saying. And they have no interest in verifying that because
And
it will dump the price of gold.
yeah, and you're absolutely right as well, because I think that low increase of like the 2 to 5% maybe each year that they're doing is fine. But because Bitcoin has shown people some crazy gains and the volatility of it as well, it's like, oh my God, like there's something out there that's making, that smashed the high jump record, completely smashed it. And how do we keep up with that? Because we've been talking about this narrative of these 2% gains each year, and we're just about getting over, and it would just destroy everything that has been said so far up until this point. So, yeah, I do think it was interesting.
But what they don't realize is that we're literally. I watched a great Western on it the other day actually, where it was during the gold rush. I think it was about
Mm,
I'm not sure how long ago. I think it was about 100 years ago, 150 years ago. And that's where we are right now, but in the Bitcoin stage. Like Bitcoin will get
yeah,
boring as well. Like
yeah.
we've always said this. Once hyper Bitcoinization happens, Bitcoin will be boring price wise. But this is the gold rush. This is when
Mm,
people realized gold was in the rivers. And yeah, then the film that I watched, the guy had just invented or just discovered this type of chemical that you can throw in the water and it shows where the gold is. And everyone else was just sieving it like blind and having to it was taking them forever and they were just sieving everything. He threw this chemical in the water and yeah, the gold just lit up. What they didn't realize, it was highly corrosive and burnt the skin. So when they jumped in the water, they were all getting their legs and hands were all getting all like burnt up. And so yeah, and most of them died kind of getting this gold. But
yeah,
people were so that was the thing though. People were risking their lives because no one knew the price of gold. All they knew was it was just loads of it lying about, and the price was just going crazy because no one knew how much
yeah.
it was. And so that's where we are right now. And it's literally grab, like going,
Price discovery.
you got to
Yeah,
jump in that river and start sifting for the gold, but you're sifting for sats. And that's where we are. And they're still sat there now, like in the 200 years later with their gold, when it's all gold hyperinization has already happened and is been over for 50 years. We're in the next gold rush, but it's the Bitcoin rush. This is the time. So all their arguments against volatility and all that stuff, it's like, no, gold started this way. Gold was crazy until we found out how scarce it was. Everyone grabbed their piece, and now we're fighting for scraps.
yeah.
And by the time we were even born, all the scraps are taken, we were just getting IOUs from the bank. We couldn't even get,
Paper IOUs. Yeah, exactly.
weren't even backed by freaking anything. So we completely missed the gold rush. So there's no point in what value are we storing? Let's be like completely honest about it. It's like we've had to build up from nothing where we didn't even have gold like value to lose. We had to build it up from nothing and build it in fiat that was inflating away from us, and you're just constantly playing catch up. A lot of the boomers that I see, they were actually around before the gold standard got broken in the 1970s.
Yeah,
So sometimes already were inheriting wealth, and they had wealth that they needed to store. They saw fiat coming along, they saw inflation coming along, so they have been storing their wealth in gold, and it's worked out very, very well for them.
yeah.
It's like how Frank said back in 1971. I think the price of gold was like $10 or $20 an ounce, and now it's like $2,000 an ounce. So he's done exceptionally well. But then he even admitted that most of those gains were made in the first 9 years. So the last 40 years have been virtually stable again. But yeah, it's just gold's at its day. Come on. But actually, the one thing I want to say though is Michael. I think he got Michael on 1 point. right at the end. And he got him on the fact that he was saying not only should people be 100% into Bitcoin, they should also lend on their Bitcoin, never sell it, and
Yes.
leverage the Bitcoin they have to buy stuff they want in the real world. And I thought
Yeah,
he had
because
a point then, I think.
yeah, because you're absolutely right. Michael can obviously do that as a billionaire, but for somebody to, yeah, I totally agree with you on that. For somebody to go 100% in and obviously potentially get washed and out of the game when volatility will occur, yeah, that's not so good. And yeah, I think hopefully people did take that away and think, yeah, they shouldn't hold all their eggs in that one basket. You're absolutely right. I'm glad you said that.
Because obviously Michael's doing it, but he's got 5 billion in Bitcoin through his company. But
Yeah.
that company also makes something like 1 billion in profit a year. Plus, he has yachts and houses all over the world. So even if Bitcoin goes to zero tomorrow, he's still a billionaire. And I think he took out $1 billion loan at 0% to buy a load more Bitcoin. So he is literally using the bank's money to make him rich. And I think that billion is now worth 3, and he still only goes to 1, which is, of course, that is genius. But he's
Yeah.
doing it during a bull market. And even if it went against him, even if just as he bought that 1 billion, we had the 80% drawdown, he still wouldn't care. He would owe 800 million when that loan was up. He'd only have 200 million of the billion that he owed. He could make up the 800 million himself. He wouldn't go bankrupt.
Yeah.
He could have paid it off. So I think it's super dangerous when people are just getting started, that if they have their 20, 30, 40, maybe even 100K in Bitcoin, and they're looking to go, oh, I want to pay off my mortgage, or I want to just get a mortgage. And instead of selling some Bitcoin to kind of put the deposit down or whatever, you lend against it.
Yeah.
It's super dangerous because obviously at the moment, let's say that Bitcoin's worth 100K and you go to the bank and go, I want a loan against this. They go, okay, then we'll use that as collateral. And here's your 50 grand deposit for your house. They're like, brilliant. And then we have an 80% drawdown. And now your 100K is only worth 20. And you owe the bank 50 plus juice. It's going up.
Yeah.
And it's over 20 years. And now suddenly, like, you've got, even if, and the thing is, provided that person probably has the diamond hands and not paper hands Portnoy, then over enough longer period enough of time, you'll make it back up and you'll get back ahead. But just put yourself in the position of that person that's just, they put their entire life savings on that. Their family's in this house. They own the bank 50K.
Yeah.
They loan that, but based on 100K worth of an asset, which is now only worth 20. The payments are coming in. They're just about keeping ahead, but they know D-Day is coming and they're behind. The stress you're going to be under, the missus is probably going to be going, what's going on? And if you're honest, it's going to be an argument. If you keep it in, it's going to be bubbling. You're going to be so stressed. And I really think that during that type of stress, that can lead to capitulation, where you just go, I'm going to cut my losses. I'm going to take the 20K. I don't want to lose the 20K in Bitcoin because I want to just be safe. I'll take the 30K loss that I owe the bank, and I'll have to earn that over the next couple of years and catch myself up. But I'm out. I couldn't take the stress. Whereas if they'd have just gone, you know what, I've got
that's a human thing to do.
Yeah.
Path of least resistance.
Yeah, and it's because it's stressful, and you don't want to put yourself down a blind alley where you've literally painted yourself into a corner where it's all or nothing. You literally are all or nothing. You could get kicked out of the street and it would be your fault. So if you have that 100K and you need to get into the house and you need 20K, I don't think, even though you know it's a stupid decision to sell that 20K and put it into Bitcoin and get a house, sometimes being able to sleep at night is a big thing. And it really is. It really is. And just do it. Like, you know, that 20K could have been worth 200 in a couple of years' time, maybe 2 million in another 5 years' time after that. But unless you really understand Bitcoin, really do, and you can take that type of stress, you shouldn't go anywhere near it.
Yeah.
And
You're absolutely right.
And I think in reality, if you actually still have a day job, you shouldn't be even thinking about it. You don't have enough wiggle room to do it. Like, if 100K isn't enough, you should have in my mind, I think 2 million plus. If you have 2 million plus, you got wiggle room now, and you can start picking and choosing parts of that Bitcoin to loan against. And if you get wrecked on what you're lending out, you can kind of absorb it. Below 2 million, I think, and if you've got a day job, just don't do it.
It's a classic Warren Buffett. Like, the first investment that you should be making is investing into yourself.
Yeah.
Learning about Bitcoin, learning about the space, learning about cryptocurrency as a whole, and why, again, all roads lead back to Bitcoin once again. But yeah, just put that investment into yourself. Don't put yourself in that position.
Yeah, and it is the one criticism I've had of Saylor since he's come out.
Yeah,
because he's just so bullish, and I think the whole Bitcoin Twitter is super bullish, and we do every time someone like sells some Bitcoin. There's a bit of a meme on Reddit where like I found my moon. Like everyone has a different moon, so
yeah, of course.
And people sell, and I believe in that. Like they get chastised for it. And people say, oh, I found my moon. I paid off my student debt and bought my mum a car. And people chastise them for it and go, you're an idiot. You should have held that and you'd have been worth 10x in a couple of years. But at the same time, like, I don't think you should ever sell all your Bitcoin. Like, never do that. That is silly. And some of the I found my moon posts on Reddit, it does look like they've sold it all and they just sold an investment. That's super silly. But I do believe in finding your own moon. Like and provided you understand it's going to be the worst investment decision of your life by selling, come to terms with it, but sort your family out.
That's another podcast too. Yeah, finding your moon is definitely a whole podcast within itself. And you touched on as well, just being able to sleep at night. And I touched on that because there's a new Headspace series that's coming out on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen any of them before, but they were.
I've heard of the app. Yeah, it's
yeah.
The app, isn't it? They managed to get their own series now, I think.
Yeah, that's right. So, like they did a couple of series. I think it was this year, and they were just touching on various different topics, like if you were angry or just getting into meditation. And I think eternal happiness as well was maybe like episode number 8. But it was definitely worthwhile. Super short, 20 minutes. But it was weird because I was watching these programs on Netflix, but I wasn't watching them because I was closing my eyes. I was just yeah. So I just kind of definitely recommend it.
Are they actually meditation? I thought they were shows about meditation, but they actually are meditation where they're trying to like chill you out.
Correct. Yeah, definitely. It's 100% worthwhile looking into. I'll send it to you afterwards. It was pretty good. And then I think what we're on today, Tuesday, so a new series is coming out tomorrow on that as well. Also as well, we talked about the Wright brothers, maybe like it may have been 100 years ago to the day in terms of the flight. But again, going back to The Price of Tomorrow, in The Price of Tomorrow, in the book by Jeff Booth, he talks about how technology is just moving so fast. And he actually mentions AI in there. And there was a period of time where people stopped investing into AI for a while, and then we kind of got back on it, and it was the classic Jeopardy. So we taught the computer how to kind of understand Jeopardy, and then he mentioned it's a game called Go, I think. I don't know if
it's a Chinese game. It's a bit like chess, I think, or checkers, but it's quite complex. Yeah, that was a big part of AI, wasn't it? When a computer beat the world championship at Go.
That's right. Yeah. So the computer beat the world champion, and I think it took a while for the computer to beat the world champion, and then they managed to get that computer that beat the world champion. They programmed another computer, and I think it only took about 3 days to beat
That.
the world. Yeah, that computer, and so it's essentially just the evolution of how AI and technology is going forward. And I think, again, this will play a place in the Bitcoin world. So it'll be fantastic because going back to where we were at the top of the session, talking about customer service and where that is, hopefully, that will certainly improve. And I think that it will bring it along, certainly in there as well.
Yeah. I
Um,
think you could
yeah.
100% customer service could be 100% AI because
Oh,
there,
easily.
there literally is only like there's a very finite number of questions you can ever ask customer service,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
literally like probably about 98% of their work is 10 questions. So
Mm,
that's super easy. Like just get AI on them, and then the final 2%, they're the ones that are more complex, and you fire them to a person. But even there's probably only like 100 questions. So
yeah,
it takes a little bit more time for the AI to figure out how to answer the more complex ones. But all the ones like password resets and what's this, what's that, I've moved money to here, I want to move it back. Like that's come on.
yeah,
I'm if anything, I'm surprised we're not already there. Like
yeah,
I was promised hoverboards by the year 2000. Whereas I want the hoverboard still. Technology is
yeah,
still behind in my eyes.
yeah, yeah. Back to the Future. I need that hoverboard. Although I absolutely love those Nike mags as well. You can tell I like sneakers, but yeah, the Nike mags, they exist. The laces that do themselves up. Yeah, they're out there. I've seen them.
Oh yeah, yeah,
They're
they created one,
amazing.
didn't they? They
Yeah,
did.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Nike created them. Yeah, so
I don't think they
yeah,
did pretty well, did
definitely.
they? I don't think they really took off.
I don't think they did pretty well because they were so expensive in terms of a price. So yeah, but yeah, I might Google them afterwards and then see how much that they're actually worth. So talking of costs, give me your 2021 Bitcoin price prediction. Where do you think that might get to?
The whole stock to flow model at the moment is pretty much spot on, and that gives an average price of $288,000.
Yeah,
And if you follow that back to 2017, it gave about $7,000 or $8,000 is the average, which again was pretty much spot on because the price always overshoots and comes back.
mm,
So based on that, and yeah, the amount of the volume, we're only just getting started. There's so much pent up demand. So 288 is the average. So yeah, I'm going.
go long. You're going big. We need this drum roll now.
Going big.
You
I'm
know,
going big. I'm going to say 750,000 in dollars. So about 650 in pounds.
let's get that.
Bullish,
Wow.
bullish, bullish.
Now that is bullish. So over 500,000 by the end of 2021.
Yeah, yeah. We're literally for me. This is the thing. We're in April 2017.
Yeah.
So the price has gone from 1K to 5K. It's almost the same. It's gone from 10K to 50K. It's following
Yeah.
it exactly. And everyone thought as when we were in April, like, and even like April so far has been a boring month. Like we went from I think from 30
It's so true.
from
It's so
30,
true.
I think we went from 30 to 60 to like 58, and people are getting bored at 58. I remember this like it was yesterday in 2017, and people are getting bored at 5K. And I was like, obviously, I was relatively new in the space then, and I was so happy at 5K, thinking this was going to take 4 years to get to there, and it took 4 months.
We
And
forget the journey, don't we?
yeah, but then it got boring. Like the whole space got boring. Everyone thought it was done. It regressed a little bit, and then but things get crazy. So when I say it's going to 750, that's going to be like for a freaking second. Like, so if we will get around 500 and everyone will be thinking a million, and we'll just wick up to 750 and we'll come crashing back down again. Like, just as we did, like from 10K to 20K, I think it was 7 days. And we stayed there for, I think, 2.5 minutes before we came back. And then it was like 3 days later over Christmas, we came back down to 10K. So it's going to be brutal, these blow off tops. And at the moment, I'm still predicting the blow off top and quite a big regression. But I think the regression will come back to about double where we are. So if we get to 750 and 80% drawback, it's still 150K. So it's all good. And then obviously, if you can try and trade it, I wouldn't, because if like the market just shifts, and like the thing is, like I'm saying 750, it could be 2 million, or it could be 300K. I don't really know, but you don't want to be selling 750 and then it go to 2 million. Like, just don't try. Like, if you want to, like you said, like if your moon is around there and you want to take a little bit of profit, then feel free, but just know it's the worst trade of your life, but still take it, and good luck to you. But don't try and time the top. I'm not going to try and do it. But yeah, I'm 750. Where are you?
I'm going to probably go like a third of that at 250.
You fucking bear. You bear.
Yeah. Yeah. Put me in that, because, and the reason why, and you touched on a couple of things, like I think the human psyche these days gets very, very bored. And I think the pandemic and lockdown has certainly put a lot of that into people. Like you said, we're experiencing massive highs right now in Bitcoin, but already we're kind of bored. April as a month, we're bored. We just look at it and think, yeah. And we're expecting so much more. And as I was preparing,
that's just the pent-up demand, because like boredom at all-time highs is brilliant for any asset.
Yeah.
Because that means boom. That means we're nowhere near the top, nowhere near when we're bored near the all-time high.
You're right. As I was preparing for the poddy today, I was just thinking as well. I was like, I was looking at Eddie Hearn and the whole DAZN thing, which we'll come on to. But as I was typing in Eddie into YouTube, it reminded me of Coming to America too. And there was so much like anticipation for Coming to America too. And I watched it and I liked it. But then after I watched it, I was just like, yeah. Whereas Coming to America 1, I've seen that again and again and again, and I was just like, that was a different time. That was a different era.
I was watching the bar scene.
Yeah, classic. Yeah, classic.
I remember watching that when I was 13, and oh my god, like watched it late at night when the parents left the room, and like whoa, this is like. Yeah. This was my Pornhub back in the day. What can I say?
Absolutely. And I just think, like, has Bitcoin again, and I don't just blame Bitcoin, but because there's so many factors, like Amazon and the, and Prime. So you click it and it's literally, it's there the next day. So if it takes more than 2 days delivery, I'm bored. Like, what? So
I can't believe you're comparing this bear market to Coming to America fucking sequel, but all right. Like, I'm not with you on this analogy so far. Like,
I'm ultimately thinking conservatively by the end of 2021. I think whilst we may be bored right now, I think we still may just get to around about 250. I'll go literally between 240, 250. I'd love to be wrong.
Dollars or pounds?
In dollars.
So about 200K in pounds.
Yeah. That's where I feel.
So that's a 4x from here.
Yeah. I think that'd be okay.
Yeah, which is great, isn't it? Where like that sounds super bearish to me, but that's a 4x on top of a 10x that we've already had this year. So I would begrudgingly take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that there's going to be so much more to happen. I think based on the red tape that a lot of these companies will have to go through to obviously enter into the space, there will be a lot more money flowing in. Um, I mean, it's crazy how, again, talking about like how AI has like come along and so on, but the time that it took for Bitcoin and the industry to get to 1 trillion versus the likes of Amazon, Google, Apple surpassed it. It's crazy. And in one of my favorite books, Layered Money, Nick Barty, he talks about how I think it was in January of 2021 or 2020. The entire market was at like 690 in terms of 690 million, and then we quickly got to the trillion. So where this 310 million just came from in a real short amount of space of time, because the book was released in February of this year, beyond me, so it literally doubled in less than a month of its whole entire market cap.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And I agree with you that companies move slow, but I think Tesla and MicroStrategy have set out such a good example now. And
Yeah,
even Saylor, he said it takes about 6 months for a board to make a decision and
yeah.
decide to do something. And Saylor did his big conference where he had like 500 CEOs of large companies and financial
I
directors
think it
go
may have
in.
been like 1400. Yeah,
Yeah, and that was
yeah.
February. So if we
That's
fast
right.
forward 6 months from that, that takes us to August. So
Mm,
if they can pay the price, because it's basically it's in discussion now in hundreds of boardrooms that have access to literally trillions worth of dollars over like around the world. It's on the discussion. So every time Tesla
yeah,
make a move, every time MicroStrategy make a move, it's on their agenda. Even if it's not on the agenda, they're talking about it in the breaks.
yeah,
So they've all gone to that conference. They've all seen it. When that conference happened, I think the price of Bitcoin was around $34,000. So they've already pretty much missed a double, by and large, like probably about 70% down on not acting on the day that Saylor told them to. As time
mm,
ticks on throughout the year, I can see the price just doubling again, getting to like 70, and that the 70 80k, that's going to be the tipping point for a number of CEOs around the country around August time. They're going to go, you know what? For our Q3, we're going to do it. We've been
yeah,
thinking about it, and it's already cost us. We're already 100%, maybe 150% behind where we would have been if we
yeah.
just allocated then. Let's go. And it's
Someone's doing the ROI calculator in the
and it's going to be
background.
a domino effect. The moment one of
Yeah,
the Fortune 500, only one of those companies have an allocation of Bitcoin, and that's Tesla. That is going to change. And once those dominoes start to go, just as it happens in the retail market and people get FOMO, once like 10, 20, 30 big companies in that Fortune 500 that no one's really even heard of suddenly have an allocation, it's going to
mm,
be fucking chaos in those Fortune 500 boardrooms. They're all going to be scrambling, and they're going to be the guys that take us from around the 100K straight to 750. It's going to be a straight line. It's going to be completely crazy. But then, just as it happens with retail, the money will run out. Even the financial directors in those companies at 750, and we're going, we are so late, and they are right, but the chart is this. It's a straight line. Like it's
yeah,
going to come down. So we're going to cool off. And at the same time, there's going to be a Tesla. There's going to be some of the earlier companies that got in also going, well, now our allocation that was worth 2 billion, if we were talking Tesla money, and I'm predicting about a 15x there. So 2 billion into 30 billion, they're going to be going,
mm,
we can do a lot of money, a lot of things with that money. So we're going to take 10 billion off the table, and it's going to start the spike down 750 to 650. And as we know, boom, 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 like once some people start to sell, people get panicked, they got weak hands. Paper hands Portnoy will be selling as one Bitcoin again.
Shout out to Portnoy tonight.
getting a lot
Yeah,
of, got a lot of shout out.
yeah.
But he's yeah, I don't mind him. But yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. So I think that we're going to get institutional FOMO from about August time. So I think we're going to be relatively boring. I say boring. We'll probably double between now and August, and then August is going to get crazy. It's just going to be like, fuck off, we're going up. And then December is going to be probably this. If it happens like literally like for like in 2017, then yeah, we peak in early December and we come off the top around Christmas, and then it's when we have a miserable 2.5 years, and that's where we all just get back to work and freaking stop looking at the price.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. It's one of those things. 100%. I don't really look at the price, which I think is innate in me and quite disciplined to do so. If I look at the price, it's more because somebody's talked about it and told me, oh, have you seen such and such? And I'm like, no, not really. And that's not because I don't have my phone, because typically I have my phone. Everything leads back to the phone. Phone gate. But ultimately, like, yeah, I'm more concentrated on the technology and the space, ultimately. But I think one of the things we should jot down for another show as well, it's great, I always love chopping it up, is what will those companies do with all of that extra cash? So they've put it in, they've maybe done similar to Tesla, they've put in their 10% allocation, and then that 10% is allowed them to go and then take the profits off the table. What are they then going to do with those profits? How are they then going to make their already successful businesses even more successful? And what does that mean for us as the consumers? I'm going to need to go away and reflect on that, and then I'd love to come back and talk about that, because that's really exciting as well, because it's not only exciting on the Bitcoin front and the price, but what else happens?
It's very interesting, because the thing is, like, for straight away, my gut feeling is like companies like Tesla, it's going to be great because I believe in the mission. The problem is Bitcoin has always been like the people's money and the self-sovereign. The problem is a load of the banks are getting in, and it's going to be the banks that are probably going to lead the way on creating some kind of allocation on their reserve assets. So I hate the fact that JP Morgan literally announced their Bitcoin fund yesterday. So for their high net worth individuals, so you have to be
Mr. Diamond.
Yeah, Mr. freaking Jamie Dimon, whatever his name is. You're never going to talk about Bitcoin. It's a Ponzi. It's a freaking tulip. Literally dumping the price just so he could buy up a load of Bitcoin himself to then go and sell to his high value clients. And even that is just, I hate it. I hate everything about his business, because straight away he's finally agreed to sell a Bitcoin product, but only to people that are worth more than $2 million a year or in total, which is disgusting. It's just, why do they get access to that investment and people that are worth less than 2 million don't? It's disgusting. So the fact that those companies are going to be the first in and are going to get a huge amount of the gains, and they're going to just further increase their reach, is awful. But the good thing is, those kind of companies and the banks, the only reason they're even around, they're reckless. They've had a monopoly since time began, and they still fuck it up. They fucked up in 2008, and the only reason they're still around is because governments bailed them out. So I still have faith in Bitcoin will work in the end. So even though these corrupt companies that were in the Fortune 500, they will get probably another 10 or 20 years worth of business out of the fact they have Bitcoin. But if they keep up their same bullshit rules about what customers they serve, if they continue gambling all their customer funds and then losing them, it's game over. There's no more bailouts. Like, you don't get bailed out in Bitcoin. No one has this Bitcoin just to give you like governments do. So it will sort itself out in the end. But yeah, I think essentially it's weird, because we all want institutions to buy Bitcoin because number go up, and that's how we get to 750. But at the same time, don't want them to. I want all the plebs to buy it. All the plebs need to get out there and just buy as many fucking sats as they can right now, because the banks and the institutions are coming and they're going to make these sats so expensive. It's going to be like $1 per sat in a couple of years' time. At the moment, it's like 1 penny a sat. So just get as many as you can now, because we can change the world. Like, I want individuals that are self-sovereign, people that are well-read. I want us to be the billionaires in the next generation, because we're going to be building, like, we're going to be schooling the kids properly. We're going to be teaching about investing. We're going to be teaching about low time preference. Bitcoiners are the people that I want to be ruling the world and to be setting the agendas, because it's all about, don't listen to anyone, be self-sovereign. There's not a single Bitcoiner out there that will say, I know everything and just follow my way. They will literally, everything they will teach you is about, don't trust, verify. So that's like, literally, you can always trust someone that in their first thing they tell you is to not to trust them and make sure you verify what I say. So that is the world I want to live in, and where people have choice. And if Bitcoiners get to lead the way, then I think it's going to be a better world. I do think we're going to have a rough patch though, where there's a load of corrupt institutions are going to ride the coattails of Bitcoin, and they're going to stick around for longer, and they're going to keep spreading their bullshit and misleading people and scamming people. And look, unfortunately, people want to be scammed sometimes because they take the easy road. Bitcoin's the hard road. So it's a bit of, I do believe in survival of the fittest to a certain extent. If you're willing to be orange pilled and wake up, then Bitcoin's here for you. It's going to get easier over time, but yeah, I'm very, very optimistic about a Bitcoin future. I think it's going to be great. I think there's a load of great people in Bitcoin, and if we can lead the way, it's going to be great. And I think as many billionaires as we can create, it's going to be awesome, because I barely see a single Bitcoiner that wants to have 20 fast cars and holiday homes all around the world. All I see, they just want to sort out their family, and then once they've done that, they're a slave to Bitcoin. That's ever since I quit my job, and my purpose was Bitcoin. I want to spread the word of Bitcoin. That's what I want to do. I want to sort out my family. I want to sort out myself, and then it's all about spreading the word of Bitcoin and building businesses just to bring more people in, and just it's all about building schools and education and getting people to be just not reliant on government. Take away all the things that government make us reliant on, which is health and education and police. We need to rebuild those things. We need to rebuild those kind of core cornerstones of what government give us, build our own little citadels, build our own versions of these, prove that they work. And people, like, you can't basically tear down a system that is so corrupt. You have to build your own. And that's why I'm super excited about it, is the Bitcoin world. It feels so far away, but like we said, 100 years ago, we couldn't fly a plane.
Snowball effect.
So,
it's snowball all day, every day.
And look at Elon. Like, Elon, he's one guy. He's one guy of 100 million. He had 100 million to his name when he sold PayPal. He created Tesla and SpaceX with 100 million.
Easily 100 mil.
I know. Yeah. That's the thing. Those people would have just checked out. And,
they would have.
He's now worth 100 billion. From 100 million to 100 billion. He 100x. But like, it's not even about that. He doesn't give a shit about the money. He gave a shit about changing the world positively. He's one guy with 100 million. Like, I want to see 2,000 Bitcoiners with 100 million. And if we could make even 1% of the impact that Elon did, then it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, well, it comes back to my point as well. Like, these iterations of Bitcoin, also known as shitcoins, and Charles Hoskinson, he was obviously involved with Ethereum initially. Absolutely. And then obviously, exactly. And now, so he, as a billionaire, is then trying to make a new concept with Cardano and the Aave coin, and ultimately, he is trying to do something positive.
No, fuck that guy. He's doing it for power. He's doing it for control. He's literally he's created, Vitalik stole all the glory. He didn't get any of the credit for creating Ethereum.
Yeah.
So he just wants all the credit, and now he's getting on TV. He's I saw him.
He wants that recognition.
Partnered with
100% he wants that
just power.
recognition.
These people are scum. These people are the lowest of the low. They should be working in the banking sector, and they should just die a horrible death. Like, just go away. Like, they're just scamming people. They're creating nothing of value. They're pretending. They get on. They talk a very good game. Like, even Charles Hoskinson, he's pretended to be 50 years old, being this professor. He's like 31, and he's a scammer. He's an out and out scammer, and anyone that buys Cardano, I hope they get wrecked and like they lose all their money. The same with Ethereum. Vitalik's a younger scammer, and they're creating nothing, and they just go away. They are just they're dirtbags, and they're not Bitcoiners, and they can.
So who's your like who you gonna put in the trash as your like scam guy, and then who would you put on as like, this is my favorite Bitcoiner of all time?
Yeah, well, number one, like the person I'm putting straight in the trash has got to be Craig Wright. He's
okay.
Craig,
and for those that aren't familiar with him,
he's fake Satoshi.
Explain a little bit.
Yeah, fake Satoshi. Oh, yeah, it's fair. Like, he was around right at the beginning.
Australia, was he?
Yeah, he's Australian.
Yeah.
But he fled there for tax evasion. He's turned.
Yeah.
Now he lives in Britain, and yeah, he's just yeah. And in recent years, he's super scummy. Where he's claiming the copyright to Bitcoin. He's claiming the copyright to the code and the white paper of Bitcoin. So any a load of developers, some of the core developers that have been hosting the white paper, he's suing them right now because it's his copyright. It's not his copyright. He's
goes back to NFTs.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's got the freaking MIT license on it. Of the whole, all the Bitcoin code has that it's everyone's. It's a free license. Satoshi was very clear with, it's the world's now. I've literally put the license on it that says there is no license. And then Craig comes on 5 years later going, "No, it's mine." It's just, yeah, he's the worst kind of scammer because he's directly attacking Bitcoin. Like, at least some of the scammers like Vitalik and Charles Hodgkin and all the NFT guys, they're just pretending to have a better Bitcoin and they largely leave us alone. Like, they kind of throw the odd dart here or there, but Craig actively goes for our guys. And like, there's a load of core developers that are very quiet guys that want to be left alone.
Yeah.
And just quietly work on Bitcoin. They want no credit. The world barely knows who they are. But then
see, that's the nature of a true developer, if I'm honest, as well. That's their persona and personality type.
Exactly. One of my favorite Craig Wright stories is he claims to be Satoshi. He was a world-class developer, and people have analyzed his code and gone, it's just exceptional.
Yeah.
He put a random, people were quizzing him on his development ability, and he decided to put this bit of code online that was this like clock that obviously just tells the time. And straight away, obviously he's posting this into the Bitcoin community, like the elite of the elite programmers.
I was going to say, yeah.
So straight away, someone just like grabbed the code and like just looked in a load of sample programs and found this clock is a sample program built into, like, even some of the comments, he'd forgotten to say some of the comments out.
He tried to plagiarize code.
And it's like, oh, just like you plagiarized the white paper, you fucking scammer. So yeah, Craig's like number one there. My number one positive Bitcoiner though, I'm gonna go for Peter Todd. Is my favorite guy, and he's a Bitcoin Core developer, and he's about, I've forgotten how old he is now. It's 12 years later, so he's probably about 28. He came into Bitcoin. He came into Bitcoin right at the beginning. He was talking to Satoshi.
16.
He was talking to Satoshi. I think it might have been even earlier. He might be like 26. I think he was about 14. And he found Bitcoin Talk, and he was quizzing Satoshi on his code and his ideas before he released it. And Satoshi was taking his ideas on board and changing the code based on Peter Todd's feedback. He was that clued up and just got it. So he's a out and out genius.
So we've got a lot of time with Peter to kind of really learn and grow with him.
Yeah, and and I've met Pierre at a couple of conferences. I've had a beer with him. I love him on stage. He's a developer, and so he's just super smart, and yeah, he's kind of on another level. So I always feel super stupid talking to him. But every time I have an opinion, like it's always a tenth of the quality of opinion that he has. It's always just I love asking him questions on any topic because the way his mind works, it's so methodical. It's just always right. Like the answer's just right. Like
Yeah.
it's just some people like that. They're just out and out geniuses. He's a child prodigy, and he hardly gets any credit in the Bitcoin community. He's very like low
Hey,
key.
this is the first time I'm hearing of him. Yeah, absolutely.
So it is.
As always, I'm a student of the game, so I'll go away and kind of
Yeah,
pick him up and do
he's on
some.
Twitter. He's on Twitter, and he's been quite outspoken about the pandemic and all that kind of stuff. He's one of the guys that gets it, and he's someone that once he kind of says something, I straight away listen. Kind of like
Okay.
this guy's brain works 1,000 times faster than mine, and
Yeah.
he is referencing 1,000 times more data than I am as well because he just means everything, and his brain just works. How about you? Who you putting in the bin and who you putting on the pedestal?
No, I don't really have anybody that I'm gonna really put in the bin
Oh,
because
come on, so many.
Maybe Frank Grustra for the way that he acted the other day. Yeah,
Upgraded to Peter Schiff then, at least. Peter Schiff.
Yeah. Peter Schiff was definitely
worse.
holding the title. Yeah, he was holding just the way that he's like he begs attention. He's like begging every Bitcoiner's attention to kind of come to his side. But the more he talks, the more I'm like more bullish that I'm on Bitcoin. And not that I wasn't, but he tempts me zero every time he tweets.
It got to such a point now where I am actually starting to think Peter Schiff has a huge Bitcoin position because
Yeah,
he can't stop talking about it.
That's his whole stick. Literally, he's talking about his son has bought Bitcoin and he's liquidated all his gold and he's all in on Bitcoin. It's like, dude, all you ever actually talk about is Bitcoin, not necessarily gold.
Yeah, and when he got quizzed on it the other day, he even said he doesn't even hold that much gold.
Yeah,
which no one does. Like, there's not a single gold bug that's 100% in gold. Like,
correct.
It's the maximum of 10% because it's a hedge, and they know that gold doesn't go up that much, so they buy stocks.
Yeah.
So he then tries to hide behind I buy stocks in gold mining companies. But in reality, you know what he's really saying. He buys stocks and everything. Like I guarantee he doesn't really believe in gold as an asset compared to Bitcoin. He knows. So
yeah,
it's Go on.
My favorite. It's always a toss up between Max Kaiserman. I always just like Max. Yeah, Max Kaiser. Sorry, Max Kaiser, and Michael Saylor.
Okay.
So yeah, I love like him and Stacy and just their whole Kaiser report, and it's so easy just to absorb and fun as well. I obviously listen to the Orange Pill podcast as well. So yeah, I really like those guys.
You got to go Max.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah,
I love Michael, but like he's only been here. He's been here less than a year. Like, come on.
Exactly. Yeah, he's fresh.
Day one. And the great thing about Max, he links into the Peter Schiff thing because he was a gold bug.
Correct.
And he had the open mind to go, all my analysis and my result, they were right until they weren't. So now 98% of my analysis is still correct. The system is corrupt, but this new thing is now the solution. I need to amend where I am. And now I love the fact that Max is a multi-billionaire and he deserves it. And you got Peter Schiff is now rich. And it's like Peter Schiff could be the richest guy on the planet right now, but instead Max Kaiser is. So freaking, I know which one I think.
I'm always a fan of consistency and longevity over time as well, because we will get into the whole sports thing as well. But, he's been saying this for such a long time and his story's not really changed. He's just been bullish.
That's the beautiful thing about Bitcoin. Like, it hasn't changed. in 12 years, Bitcoin hasn't changed. So
Yeah.
anyone that got it in 2010, they can't have changed their story in 2021 because
Yeah.
Bitcoin is the same. So Max
Yeah.
got it in 2010. So when you listen to him then and you listen to the same podcast now where he gets asked the same questions, he says the same thing.
Yeah.
Because it's still true. It's
Yeah.
no one was lying. There's no affinity scam here. There's no exit scam. There's no like pump and dump. It's just it's sound money.
Exactly.
If you get money, this is the best form of it. Buy it if you want, or don't, and get wrecked. It's fine.
Yeah.
I don't care. And it's beautiful because that's the thing. Like people like Max, and it's great that he survived the test of time because so many people have traded in their name through a scam. They've jumped to a shitcoin. Like there's loads of people like back in Max's day. There's probably like 10 or 20 names that I remember back then, and it's pretty much only Max and maybe one or two others that haven't started shitcoining because they wanted the recognition. They weren't the creator of Bitcoin. They wanted to be the creator of something. So they created a shitcoin. They created a fork of Bitcoin. They wanted to be the ruler. They still had billions, but now they want tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions, by having their own. They wanted to be Satoshi. That's what they wanted. And Max has never wanted to be Satoshi. He's always respected Satoshi and just gone, I'm just a spokesman for Bitcoin and I'm happy being that. So that's the kind of example that we need.
I can't wait till the world opens back up because I'm looking for wherever they are and what conference they're at because I'd like to get there.
Yeah,
Can you imagine it being very
in Vegas when I got Corona? I played poker with Max. Max and Stacey sat down for they played the Bitcoin tournament. Yeah, so I played poker with them both. Yeah.
Oh, well.
This is why I said I think I invited you to these events, and it's like you need to come because like these guys are there. And at the moment, it's still relatively small, but already now it's already got crazy. So like I'm looking at Miami in June. Jesus Christ! Like one of the conference I went to, I think I had like 300 people. There's like 5,000 going to this one. So I freaking told you, like these legends of Bitcoin, like they're going to be inaccessible so quickly. They're going to become the Mark Zuckerbergs and Elon Musks of the world. They're going to become them, and you need 17 like layers of management in play between you and these guys. And they're not going to go to these conferences. They're going to get mobbed, which is going to be the plebs hanging around, and there'll be a VIP zone with 17 bodyguards in between us and them. But at the moment, like, you can just go. I just turned up to Vegas. There was 300 people. I was sat at a poker table, and Max sat down one side, and then Stacey standing behind me, and I'm just like talking to both of them. I'm like, this is Max and Stacey from the fucking Kaiser Report. I'm playing poker here, and these two guys are here. I'm like, and like opposite me is Peter Todd, and like, oh my, it's just amazing. And
amazing.
This is where you got to go, man. It's like.
I love the fact that they're on RT News as well, because RT News has always been there, Russia Today News, and it gives you like a completely different perspective. Because I openly say I've probably not watched the news religiously or in any form for nearly maybe 6, 7, 8 years or so. Like I remember reading about it and just turned it off. Like got rid of Sky News. Didn't watch it at all. And it's not that I don't hear about it or see it, of course, but I just don't feed into it and do so. So when the reports come up along in their ticker and brings me on to, it actually provides me with a different viewpoint of how the world sees the UK. So one of the reports that came up was UK border forces have seen scores of fake COVID certificates. And I was like, well, that's not something that I've heard, but that's the story that's being portrayed out to the rest of the world. So what's your thoughts on that?
Oh, well, yeah, exactly. Like, this is the thing, like, in every story, whichever country is telling the story, they're the hero.
Of course.
So it's like the media essentially is propaganda. And it's I've read some really interesting history books, which I've got no clue what they're called now. but they've gone through it where the whole like history is written by the victor, right? Because the person that lost died, so
Yeah.
they get written as whatever bad things they did, they get
Yeah.
exaggerated, if not completely made up. And then the victor is the one that then goes, "Oh, I'm whiter than white. I was the hero in this story, and I beat the villain."
Oh
So
yeah.
every single
'Cause
country does that. Every single
yeah,
country
you're
does it.
right.
And we've almost agreed that as the West, we're like a tribe of allies, and it's us against Russia and China. So
Yeah.
whatever they do negatively, they exaggerate it and tell us 10 times a day that that's happened. Whereas everything bad we do, they do the same on their side, and they probably exaggerate it and make us out to be worse than we are. But we're completely sheltered from it and don't hear it at all. So
It's funny you say that.
we think we're this is like, have you ever seen the sketch by the guys from Peep Show? It was before they even did Peep Show, and they're dressed as Nazis, and they're going along, and they're like, "Oh yeah, really proud of the work we're doing." Da 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 da. And then someone shouts at them something, and I'm like, he goes to his mate and goes, "Are we the baddies?" And it's like that's what no one really kind of clicks with, where
Right.
we all get told we're the heroes. Even the Nazis got told they were the heroes. They were
They were.
taking out the Jews. The Jews were bad. They were like stealing the money from the Germans. They were, they're vermin. They got demonized to a point where like exterminating them all was a human good to get rid of them. And
I think Hitler put out a message whilst he was in prison talking. I think it was something along the lines of my struggle.
yeah,
So they were the victims.
exactly. Yeah. So like, of course, the victim's allowed to fight back. Like, why wouldn't you? Like,
Yeah.
so it's genius, and this is the propaganda that. And it's always like whenever you bring up the Nazis, like people say like, "Oh, you've automatically lost the argument because you've gone too extreme." But literally, their playbook was brilliant. Like you've got to admire the playbook, and that playbook has been copied time and time again.
Correct.
This is how you brainwash
propaganda.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, you're so right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what I think is happening all around the world. And I like when I try and rise above it, like I don't think China and Russia are kind countries at all. I can see mass corruption. I can see them. They are undoubtedly dictatorships, and they undoubtedly have killed people that have tried to rise up against them.
Yeah, safe to say this podcast will not be aired in China or Russia.
Then at the same time, our governments are exactly the same. They because essentially all you've said there is they control their population and they murder people. Our government and the American government, well, number one, we've all been locked in our homes for a year, so they're controlling us. Who do they murder? Well, they're more smart about it. They murder people in other countries. So we've been anyone that looks like a Muslim country, we've been bombing them since 2001 when 9/11 happened.
Correct.
Under the whole guise of the war against terrorism. But millions of people have died that were completely innocent. They'd completely admit it. And then this is the whole thing about follow the money. We've invested huge amounts of money in artillery and bullets and guns and warships and all the rest, but we're richer than we've ever been. Same as America. Why is that? Oh, well, we've got access to a load of natural resources that happen to the governments that we put in place inside these Muslim countries have magically agreed to sign over to us for next to nothing. And so we're sat here going, "Oh, we're the hero. We liberated these countries. We got rid of the terrorism and we put in government, and now everything's fine." And that's what the story we're told. Go and visit one of these countries and ask a person on the street what they think, what their version of the story is.
Yeah.
We are the baddie there. This is if me and you are walking down the street in Afghanistan, we would be getting yelled at for the fact that we have British accents. And we'd be looking at each other going, "Are we the baddies?"
Yeah.
Because we are.
Definitely that.
Okay, so that was heavy.
Yeah. And to bring it up a level, because you're right, we are the bad guys, and you see it in so many films. In terms of war films, those kids are growing up innately hating the West, and the US in particular is the bad guy. But to bring it up a notch, let's talk about UFC, and let's end on UFC
Yes, do it.
and UFC 261.
What a card! Best card I've seen in years.
Thank you. I'm glad you said that. And it wasn't just because of the outcomes. There was something different about
The
this
fans were
card.
back.
There you go. The fans were back.
The fan brought the magic, and the whole fucking stadium was on fire.
It was electric. Electric. You stayed up. You were hardcore. You know me. I'm normally there. I'm messaging you at 3, 4 a.m. in the morning, telling you were awake and you haven't drank. And yeah, I didn't do
no whiskey. No whiskey on UFC nights. I start to flag about 2 a.m. and miss the main fights.
Yeah. No, I go for my power nap before. That's my trick. And I do like to watch sports live, but on this occasion I didn't. But I literally, when I had my phone, my original phone, I stayed away from the original phone until I'd watched it. And I was so glad, because I hate to find out the results before. So where do we want to start? What fight should we start off with? Should we go with the breaks?
Yeah, the thing is, like, the prelims and like even the early prelims and then the prelims were all exceptional. They everyone turned up. They were just like crazy fights, just banging, and it was just like even DC said, like, on DC and Hawali,
Yeah.
Like, usually when you get to the early prelim, because it's like, the thing is with UFC, it's like 6 hours long.
This is an event.
Yeah, like, because there's so many fights, and normally the crowd don't get started until halfway through the prelims, and then the main fans turn up as the main card starts. He said, so the stadium was like 30,000 people or something. There was like 5 to 10,000 people for fight number 1. So the fighters just all reacted. It's just like suddenly like their game goes up. It's like, oh, I really am being watched, and the crowd are reacting to every punch. They're like cheering it or going, oh, and like it really, like, the fighters react to the audience's reactions. And even when a fight's boring, for example, they start booing. So it just
you wasn't getting that throughout the pandemic. It was just silent, and it was even more silent.
Yeah,
but
so like,
you're absolutely right.
So crappy fights like stay crappy. It's just like the same that's happened in football. Like, we've had so many lackluster games because the crowd aren't there to give the players a kick up their ass. They don't realize until after the game or after the fight what people's reaction is. They need it in real time. But yeah, I think like the fights I really remember, like the first two were just like those 2 leg injuries. Like, fair play. This is why, like, I think it's why I admire UFC so much, is because one fight can end your career. There's no like hiding in there. Like, 2 leg kicks, and seeming like one was received and one was given, and it seemed like career-ending kind of injuries, because oh wow, like, they were like, the first one was making me sick, and then the second one happened.
I was going to say, I felt queasy after seeing that first one.
Especially that, like, this is the thing, like, about UFC fight as well. Then this really, it comes in almost like ties back into Bitcoin again, because it's all about look at like the desire. What's his name?
Crute. Yeah,
Crute.
Yeah.
Because like in UFC, they're not like footballers. I see football as like fiat, and UFC is Bitcoin. Because
nice.
In football, like, those players,
any excuse to bring it back. Yeah.
Because like in football, I think you get paid, like, the footballers get paid 200, 100 grand a week, and win or lose. Like, they get win bonuses, but win or lose, they make their money, right? But in UFC,
bonus, appearance bonus, goal bonus, you name it. Yeah.
So once you're already a millionaire, having an extra million for winning the Champions League or winning the league, it's nice. Like, they want to win it, but they're not going to die.
So you can see the desire. Yeah.
But when you watched that guy, that first fight on the main card, and his leg was screwed, not only did he finish the round winning it, he then couldn't walk. His foot kept falling over, like literally folding in fucking half. And then the doctor comes, like, he sits down, his corner, ask him, "Are you okay?" He says, "Yes." They sort him out. And they're like, seriously, yeah. He stands up, and the doctor comes over going, walk towards me. He walks and he's fine. And then the doctor's like, okay, walk back. He walks and falls.
He buckled hard.
And then he gets like the ref then the doctor goes, you can't even walk. It's done. So he turns around to punch the side of the cage. And as he punches, screws his leg again and falls to the ground. And it's like, these guys are
got the images of it.
They are fighting for their lives. This is about incentives, right? This guy isn't getting paid £1 million a month. This guy is on the way up. He's probably getting paid 50, maybe 100K for that fight. He might fight twice in a year. Based on that kind of injury, he might fight not again this year. So like he was literally ready to maybe never walk again to win that fight. And that is just crazy. And it's just,
yeah, you're absolutely
that kind of like do or die. Like he is an animal, like a complete beast. I admire the fuck out of those kind of guys, because I would never put myself in that situation. And it's incredible to watch. But then
you can see the heart. When
those kind of injuries happen, it's just super sad to see them, because it's so unfortunate. Like legs and ligaments and bones, you can just break at any time.
Yeah, definitely. There's advisory if you go back and watch these fights, because that was hard to watch. Just to, the cameraman was doing a much better job than I would ever have done. Like I would have just been like, no, I'm turning everything off. I'm going dark. That's it. I'm out. Literally, I would have been like, here, yeah, I'm gone. Stop video. That's me. I'm out. so yeah, that would have happened.
And the 3 knockouts. What do you think of the 3 knockouts?
Wow. So so we got
Shevchenko first.
Shevchenko, of course. Wow,
the domination, wasn't it?
She is, I think. Where do we rank her in female UFC fighters?
Number 2. Amanda Nunes has got to be number 1. It
has to be Nunes.
Yeah, and obviously Nunes has beaten Shevchenko twice as well, so it's not even a debate. It's like she's number 2. Like number 1 and 2 for me are miles ahead of everyone else. But Amanda is miles ahead of Shevchenko in my mind, because she's beaten her twice. So.
Yeah, and I kind of look at Nunes as like, even though they fought, she just looks naturally bigger.
She is. She's a weight class higher.
Yeah, that's right. And so, she has that. But wow, Shevchenko, she said it from the beginning. Throughout the whole like weigh-in, she seemed relaxed, and she was like, it was nothing.
Yeah, well, I love the fact that
she was going in to win.
Yeah, the Brazilian said like, oh, she can't wrestle, so I'm going to wrestle her. So Shevchenko purposefully beat her via wrestling, took her down 7 times, got in a crucifix, and then smashed her face so many times until the ref stopped it. And then when I asked, like, why did you do it that way? Like, we thought you were going to strike her and stuff. She went, well, she said I couldn't wrestle. So I wrestled her and beat her that way. It's like, you can pick, like, someone picks your weakness, and then someone goes, and then you just go, I'm going to use that weakness and prove it's stronger than your main strength. Like, that is just a level of ability and like arrogance, which is just like amazing. Like, fair play. Like,
when you're choosing that finishing, absolutely, you're ready to go, aren't you?
Yeah.
So she was great on that night, and as she said, she has no weak points or weaknesses. So I was really happy to see that.
You got Thug Rose against
Thug Rose. I was worried. I'll be honest. I was worried for Thug Rose.
I bet against it. I sent you my bet. I bet on 3 knockouts in the final 3 fights. I thought there was 3. Well, all 6 fighters were bangers. So I just thought none of these are going to show submissions. None of them are going to go to points. Someone's going to get knocked out. And I went for the 3 favorites. I didn't think Thug Rose really stood a chance. Like that. She's 21. Well, she's weirdly, her record is 21-1, but she somehow lost her first fight. So she, in my mind, the first fight, wipe it out. She's 21-0, and looks unbeatable. And Oh man, fair play to Rose. Like,
It was kind of like a an Aldo moment, wasn't it? Where Connor beat
yeah,
Aldo,
with the
and
movement, it was like Thug Rose's movement was so weird. She was just dancing around in front of her. And
yeah,
and you could just see she was walking forward, going, fucking stay still so I can slap your face. And Rose was just dancing about and she couldn't like get her movement. And she kept moving in and then moving out. And then one time she moved in, she slapped her in the face with her leg and it just completely caught her off guard. It was like genius tactics. She wasn't
yeah.
expecting it. She got it. And that's all
I
she wrote.
think I think it was the movement and the impact of not only the perfect timing, but it reminded me of the Manny Pacquiao knockout, which he faced against a Mexican guy. His name escapes me right now, but Floyd fought him on his return, and ultimately he knocked him out cold. I'm gonna have to Google it basically, but this was an amazing, like her kick just was fantastic. I'm gonna find his name.
It was so weird though, because like Wei Lin, like she had her hand up. Like,
Marquez. Yeah.
because it's so
Yeah.
weird because she had her hands up and then the kick was coming in and somehow as it's coming in she kind of lowers it and then it
Yeah.
slaps her in the head. It's like she literally just had no clue it was coming. She was looking at something else. She was like setting up a shot and not knowing that they'll leave that arm there because it's literally there's a leg coming, block a leg kick. She just didn't see it, and I think it's just credit to Rose because she reminds me like you said, like with the Conor McGregor and Jose Aldo. I think like Conor like moves in different ways and just kind of gets in your head, and this yeah, it's just
It's the shift of the balance, wasn't it? Of like she was there one minute, she
yeah,
was gone the next,
it's almost
and
like a snake,
bam,
like,
that leg.
hypnotizing. It's almost like a
Yeah.
cobra. Like cobra's just like
Yeah.
there, and it almost like there's so many feints that it lures you in to like ignore them, and then
Yeah.
boom, one of them's real. It's like, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah. Yeah. That's
that's
right.
all she wrote, and she was out.
You're absolutely right because I think there was a feint beforehand,
Yeah,
and then the leg came, and yeah,
it was
it drew.
I didn't realize how big Rose was as well. When once I saw her in the ring again, I thought for whatever reason I thought Wei Lin was bigger than her. Like because I think she is
Mm,
stockier, but she looked so much bigger. She looked like she was towering over her, and she was just dancing in and out. I'm like, she looks really dangerous. Like every time she like goes in, it's like she looks.
yeah.
I thought she was going to look like a smaller woman compared to Wei Lin, and then once I saw she was big, I'm like, oh, I think I've bet on the wrong horse here. And then 20 seconds later, it's like boom, yeah, it's like yep, that was that.
Again, you look at Thug Rose, and she doesn't necessarily come across as like a UFC fighter, as maybe, Cyborg, she looks like a UFC fighter. Amanda Nunes, like, while she's quite feminine, I still wouldn't ever like, you want me to pick that up? Yeah, I know I dropped it, but yeah, I'll pick it up for, like, she will teach you manners.
Well,
But yeah, Thug Rose, despite the name Thug, like she is that Rose, and she just dominated the game that day. So it'll be interesting to see her next fight, and I'm sure we've got to see a rematch, right?
yeah, I'd imagine so. I'm trying to think who is else in line. I can't even think of anyone. Oh, it's Johanna Jodovic.
Yeah, Zerdek. Yeah, Zerdek. Yeah,
So I think she might be in line because the thing is, because it's a knockout, she's out for 6 months now anyway. So,
right.
chances are, I think Johanna will probably get a shot at Rose,
Okay.
and I think Rose beat Johanna to get her title.
Yes, yes, she did. Yeah.
So it's a bit of a rematch. So I think there's some storyline there. So I think Johanna probably gets the next go at Rose, and then whoever gets, and not obviously Wei Lin will come back, and whoever wins out of Rose and Johanna will fight
Yeah.
Wei Lin. So it's either going to be a rematch or, well, the thing is, fight of the year last year pretty much was Johanna against Wei Lin. So
Correct.
if we get a repeat of that and Rose does lose, then like I don't like that division's just awesome. Like when you got three women that are just rock solid and so even. It's really exciting because the problem is, right, with
It pushes the division
yeah,
as well. Everybody has to step the game up. So I'm not surprised that Andrade will come back and she'll be better.
yeah. Well, she's tried her hand at a couple of divisions, and unfortunately, I think she's just below elite. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
I think she's a top 10, but she's not going to be a champ. Because the problem is, like with the divisions above in the women's, you got Shevchenko and got Nunes, and they're just so dominant, it's boring. Whereas
Yeah.
in the division where you got Rose, Waylin, and Johanna, every time they fight, it's like 50-50. It really is.
Yeah, on
And
any
that's
given
exciting.
day.
And as a
Yeah, on
fan,
their
that's
day.
kind of what you want. You kind of want to know, like, I don't want to go into it thinking, like, because I went into that Shevchenko fight going, I know who's going to win. It's just how she's going to win.
Yeah.
And then Usman against freaking Masvidal in the highlight, the headline of the night. Like, I knew Usman. I knew Usman was going to do him. That was the most certain I probably was. Like, Masvidal's never been knocked out in his career, but like listening to Usman before that fight, like he hated the fact that Masvidal had the excuse last time with the 6 days notice. He hated the fact that he went easy on him and just won on points because he just played the smart fight last time. Usman was technically, I think, a little bit scared of Masvidal and just went, I'm just going to win on points, keep my title. It's in Dubai. It's all weird. We're in the middle of COVID. I don't want to lose the title. So he just kind of played it safe. But then Jorge like went out afterwards. He got so much shit for the foot stamping and all that kind of stuff. And like, you're boring. And so I just heard him in the press conferences before and he went, there's going to be no mistake this time. I'm going to dominate him and he's going to get knocked out. And I was like looking in his eyes. I'm like, this guy means that. He's not just, this isn't marketing. This isn't like trash talk. Like, this guy means it. Like, and obviously I just watched him against Burns.
Yeah.
And like he smashed him to pieces. He's a knockout artist. Like, and in my mind is more dangerous than Masvidal. So I'm like, he's fighting an easier version of Burns in Masvidal. So it's going to be the same result. And it was. He baptized him.
I think you can still hear me okay, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. AirPods have died, but it's all good. I think, and I'm going to go out on a limb, because he had Francis Ngannou as his bodyguard for the week. I think that gave him an extra boost as well, because he didn't need to worry about anything, because obviously Ngannou towered above him. But it kind of reminded me of the Klitschko brothers. Yeah, like when they used to go out. Yeah, it was like you were fighting two people. You know, the fact that you got your opponent, but then you've got this big heavyweight champion of the world behind you. It was just like, I'm ready to take over the world. And so, I definitely agree. He came with that authority to kind of say, as he said, put some respect on my name. And he did that with authority, and it was amazing to watch. I could, again, like between that fight and Thug Rose, I could watch those knockouts again and again on a highlight reel. They were amazing.
Yeah, there was
the way that obviously Zhang, she fell, and then the way that, I mean, the sweat that came off Masvidal when that punch hit.
A lot of that was water. That was like, because Masvidal's team were expecting a lot of wrestling, because that's what he did the first fight. They poured a lot of water on his head just before that round started to make him more slippery so he could get out of the submissions and get out of the wrestling. But what they didn't know is 30 seconds into that round, he was going to get his head knocked off his shoulders. So that water that was on his head just went. So that was water designed to be slippery. And in the end, it just made the knockout look better, which massively backfires, because you don't want your knockout to look good. You want it to look shit so no one replays it. But that super slow-mo version of Masvidal being knocked out it looks amazing. So
yeah, absolutely. And the way that he set it up, because again, I've rewatched it back again and again, and it was like he went to grab his arm out of the way to ensure that the right came through and connected. And
Yeah, it's
Boy,
weird
did it
because
connect.
I do recognize that because Connor called him out for it. But it is funny because obviously Connor didn't invent this, but Connor does it all the time. Like he grabs people's hands with his right hand, he moves it to the side, and then the left comes through the middle, and it almost looks like cheating. Like I'm just going to move your guard out the way, and then like why punch through a guard when you can just move it and then punch through?
Yeah.
But like he does it all the time, and but the thing is, he does it playfully loads. He would like play, he would knock your hands constantly out the way, and you almost get bored of it. And then one time he knocks it, bang, the left hand comes over. And that's exactly what Usman did. And then Connor calls him out for exactly that and goes, why are you copying my shots? And then, yeah, it's just funny. And then Connor's already trying to line himself up for freaking another, trying to win that 170 title. I'm like, oh, geez, Connor, don't go against Usman. Jesus fucking Christ. Usman will kill you. He will kill you.
You want that work.
Like
definitely.
Like Usman's just a bigger Khabib, like with better striking. Like he's just a monster.
Yeah. Fantasy fight. Usman versus Khabib.
Francis against Khabib.
Yeah,
who
like
do you think wins? What really? Like surely, come on, like
no. I mean, as in, I just think it would be great to see.
I would. I can't see past Francis though. Jesus Christ, I love Khabib, but Jesus, he couldn't take one of them hits. Like, and Khabib's strong, like he can wrestle bears, but I reckon Negreanu's stronger than a bear. So I don't think he can take him down. I think he'd grab one of his legs and like Negreanu would just be laughing, looking down at this Russian guy, and he just go like bang, it'd just be over.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of any excuse to get Khabib out of retirement.
I know, yeah, it's not going to happen. He's too rich. He's done. He's done. Yeah. And the thing is, he's too sensible. He's got the right mindset. So he hasn't got any ego, and he's not greedy. So the only reason like Connor's back is because of ego. He doesn't need it for money. He wants legacy and he wants to be loved. So that's why he's back. Khabib doesn't give a shit, and he's already got. And he knows that his legacy can be built by giving back to the community and building great things in Russia and in the Muslim community. He wants to do all that. So he doesn't need to fight anymore to do that. So
talking of which as well, and in terms of not needing the money, and I will end on this one, is DC versus Jake Paul.
Oh, no.
And like what kicked off there. And I was so glad that, you know, the way that DC, and you've probably seen it with Ariel and DC on their show. DC ain't holding back. Like DC ain't that guy to play with. Like we've always said, don't look at the shape of DC. Understand what DC has done in the game. Like he's not that guy you want to be playing with.
I was sad though to see it because have you seen the Jake Paul interview with Ariel straight after that?
No, I haven't.
And Jake's laughing at him because he's playing into his game. Like Ariel knows it as well, and Ariel's warned DC about this. He's like literally last Saturday or last Monday, he was saying like, don't punch down, don't give this guy even attention. And a week later, he's saying, I'm going to grab him and punch this guy into the ground. And Jake's laughing at him going, every time you mention my name, you make me more money. Thank you. I want this to be me versus MMA. That's why I turned up. You gave me the attention. The entire crowd are chanting my name. DC, they're like one of their legends, their Hall of Famers, came and challenged me to a fight. He's loving it. He's literally going, I can't believe it. I'm 3 fights in. DC's challenged me. John Jones has mentioned my name. Conor McGregor's mentioned my name. Dana White mentions my name in every press conference. I can't believe it. This is amazing. They're playing my game. And he described himself as him is the matador and MMA is the bull. And they're just running at his red flags. And he's just waving them and they're running in. He's like whipping it away and putting it down here. And it's like to watch DC be that angry against a YouTuber who's just going, you're some fat slob, I could take you out. It's like, DC, come on, you've heard that a million times online. Just rise up, like, don't even acknowledge it.
DC saying he'll get down to 205. 205. DC's walking around at probably 300.
I know, yeah. And he literally said like he's retired, he's done, he doesn't need the money. Like it's so I was so disappointed in DC, to be fair. Like I just once Ariel asked the question, I wanted like number one, DC should not have gone up to him. He should have ignored him and just not given him the time of day. And once Ariel brought it up, he should have gone, no comment. I don't want to talk about that guy. I would have respected him so much because now he's brought it up. Like he was so emotional. I've never seen DC is so jovial, so laughy. Like he's drinking his coffee, eating his food. Like he's so unprofessional half the time, but he's so like that's why people love him because he's like a world-class athlete.
Not put his hands on him.
Yeah, he's like the ultimate dad that will just kill you. Like he doesn't look scary, but if he gets his hands on you, you're fucking done. And like, but I've never seen him angry. Like other than like, probably when they've been speaking about John Jones, then he gets a bit serious there because him and John Jones really went in deep. Every other topic, DC is so jovial.
Yeah,
he was more irate against Jake Paul on that show with Ariel than I think he was against John Jones. And Jake's done rarely nothing other than call him fat one time. And Jake's laughing at him for going, thanks for the attention, mate. You're a legend in UFC. And by you mentioning my name, wanting to fight me, you make me more money in my next fight. Thanks. It's like, man, you're playing his game. Like, come on, rise above it.
He's of that age where, similar to you and I, we know about pre-internet. So, you know, DC is of that. If these cameras in it, if this was pre-internet, this would be game over. And it's hard to remember that everything is being captured, you know.
He would have grabbed his head, wouldn't he, and thrown it into the floor, like just there and then.
Yeah, and there would have been all 330 million US individuals watching and capturing every second of every angle, and then it being replayed across the world.
Yeah, I would love to have. I want to see, because the thing is, he'd be calling out Nate Diaz. And Nate doesn't give a fuck. So, like, if Nate had been in that crowd, it would have been a fight. Like, there's no doubt.
Yeah,
it would, because like DC is like he's an animal, but he's a good guy, and he's a very smart guy. So he knows that when he went up to him, like he knows if he throws a punch, he's probably going to get fired from the UFC. Like you can't just punch someone in the crowd. Like you can't do that. He probably would have got fired. So he didn't do it for those reasons. But with Nate would have just done it. That's just his brand. You know, he's freaking fought for the bad motherfucker belt along with Masvidal. Yeah. So that would have been more interesting. But
it wouldn't have been like, I'm not a Jake Paul fan at all. So for me, it wouldn't have been satisfying enough because security would have
it'd been like, you wouldn't have knocked him out. It'd been like slap and then stopped.
Yeah.
So you got fired for literally nothing because
exactly. So I would like to see somebody like properly put hands on him and do it. And I actually saw an interview with Frank Warren talking about, because Tommy Fury is Frank Warren's fighter. You know, again, he's had 3 novice boxing fights. He doesn't want it with a professional fighter, professional boxer, and so. Yeah, hopefully we see that, but hopefully we see it in a way.
I honestly think Jake's too clever. Like Tommy Fury came up in Ariel's interview with him, and he says Tommy's he's 5-0, but he's fighting nobodies, and the only reason he's famous is because Tyson's his brother. But in reality, you can see through, and he's also said he's not famous enough, so he won't do the numbers. But in reality, you can see in his eyes he's scared because this is a real boxer. And Jake, the thing is, like with Jake, the reason why we're all fucking talking about him is because he's so smart. He's going to keep cherry picking UFC fighters that are over the hill, that aren't strikers, that he can knock out. He isn't going to fight a proper boxer because he loses, and he knows he's going to lose. So he keeps going for people like DC, which, much as I love DC, like in a boxing match against Jake Paul, I probably think he loses. And there's a lot of UFC fighters that would lose in an out-and-out boxing match. It's like we've seen UFC fighters go over to boxing all the time. It's like what all their training is like used against them in boxing because they're guarding against takedowns and kicks and they're not used to guarding their head as much, and
Yeah.
they're just not set up for it, which is why Jake Paul's going for, like, he started on celebrities, then he went to a basketball player, then he went to a wrestler. The next thing he's going to do is go for a striker, but an MMA striker, and his end goal is Conor. Conor is where he makes 100 million in one fight, and then he retires. He retires like 5-0 and disappears. Like, he will never lose. Everyone's going to wait for Jake Paul to get knocked out by Tommy Fury or some other like boxer somewhere. That fight will never happen, because his payday is Conor. That's where he's aiming for, because he thinks he can beat Conor, because he is bigger than Conor. Conor's not a particularly good boxer, so he probably will beat him. Or even, the thing is though, it's like when Conor fought Mayweather. He doesn't care about the result. It just the fight just needs to happen. He needs to bait Conor close enough into a fight. He makes 100 million in one night and then retires.
Yeah.
And we're all playing into it. And he's going to continue picking shitty MMA guys.
You know, in the whole build-up, we would watch it. It would be fascinating. It's a fan's dream to hear those two go at it. The press conference would be, you know, memes galore.
The thing is, like, Ben destroyed freaking Jake in a press conference. So Conor would like wipe the fucking floor of him. It wouldn't even be a contest. But the thing is with Jake, like, he's had so much shit his entire life, like, because he's been on YouTube his whole life, and he's always been hated. Like, his whole life, he's been like the dickhead. So everyone's been giving him shit in the comments, and he's kept playing up to that, get more views. So in these, like, the whole mind games when it comes to press conferences and like beating him in a press conference, and then all the commentators and all the presenters and all the comments are all negative against him. It's like, oh, Ben beat you in the press conference, he shoved you in the face, like, he said this, he said that. He doesn't care, because he's had it his entire life. He's always been the guy that was hated. And he's like, I'm just going to back myself. So he doesn't care, and he won't care if he loses to Conor or beats Conor. He doesn't care. He gets his 100 million payday. And you must admit, I say fair play to the guy, because there's obviously a gap in the market. I was thinking about this before, because like my brother even signed up to the white collar boxing like 3 or 4 years ago, and I think this whole Fight Club thing has massively become a thing. Like, people just want to fight, like guys and girls, I think, just want to get in a ring and just want to smash it in the face. And I think Jake's just tagged into that, where you've got these professional elite boxers and professional elite MMA guys, and there's this thing in the middle, which is just the average guy could maybe compete, maybe. And like, typically we just fight each other, but he's like captured the imagination and gone, I'm an average guy, I'm just a YouTuber, but I'm gonna fight, I'm gonna like get out of this white collar boxing, this like random fight club that we have underneath a bar one day, and I'm gonna break out and start fighting the elite. And that's exciting. And like, he's got a following, and obviously that gets attention.
Well, it's also on that network of Triller, which is very big as well, because Triller is bringing us those celebrity fights, and it's also bringing us some classic verses as well. So the last verses, it was 420. It was Redman versus Method Man, which was amazing, and had like some of the Wu-Tang Clan came out, and also Keith Murray was there. The verses will always go down as a classic, because it had Snoop Dogg versus DMX, and you know, there's been countless during the pandemic, and that's where it came from. So they're now on that Triller platform, so with Swizz Beatz and Timbaland. So I think that's a huge platform, and it also, I know I said that the DC was going to be the last thing, but it also kind of ties back into the Eddie Hearn and DAZN thing as well, because ultimately it's now giving people choices. You know, people have a choice between BT Sport, Sky Sports, Eurosports, Matchroom. We've got
Illegal streaming.
We've got Box Nation. You know, all of these things, like the whole decoupling and the decentralized from the main central forces, which was Sky, ultimately. And people are now having that choice as to where they put their money. And obviously, UFC is another decentralized faction within itself in terms of fighting. So it's interesting to see what's happening in the world, and again, where people are making their choices.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think you've got to admire the hustle. Like, there's always disruption. And I say I admire Jake for doing it, and but I must admit, I think it's unfair to call him a YouTuber anymore. He's been training for 3 years as a boxer, and I've watched some of his training videos. He's a boxer now. He is an established, I think, like relatively low level but professional boxer. He would give most amateur. I think he'd beat most amateurs now. I think once he goes into pro ranks, no one knows because we've never seen it, but. And we're never going to see it because he doesn't want to fight pros. But I think anyone that describes him as a YouTuber anymore is massively underestimating him. He's now a professional boxer. He's probably he'd be ranked like 10,000th in the world at boxing, but he's 10,000th in the world. So that is still high. It's not like nothing. It's not an amateur. So when you're an MMA guy and you're a wrestler, because the thing is, even DC can strike, but he's a wrestler. He went to the Olympics as a wrestler, so he's not a striker. Like, he learned striking in the UFC, and he only learned striking knowing that the only reason he could even strike is because the other guy is scared that he's about to take them down. That's the only. It's like the only reason Khabib gets any hits on people like Conor is because they're terrified of the takedown. So they end up getting a hit in because they're worried about them grabbing their waist. Whereas once it's a boxing and they're standing up, and there's no risk of a takedown, now you just, as you're a boxer, you dissect them. It's just it's just a matter of time until these guys lose. And I'm sad to see DC lower himself to Jake Paul's level, because at the end of the day, like, it's like us freaking Bitcoin trolls on the internet. Like, sometimes we wind up these people and like we troll Paper Hands Portnoy, we'll troll Elon, we'll troll everyone. And when they react, we just love it. Like, they think they've got a clever response. It's like, there is no winning here. Like, we are literally trolling you. Anything you say back is just material for us to come again. Like, it's just, we've got nothing to lose here. You don't realize this is not like,
as long as you've got them, they're on a hook.
Yeah, it's actually like the phrase is, "Don't feed the troll." Like, it's energy. Like, any response, it feeds the troll. So the only way to kill the troll is ignoring them. And then the troll goes away.
So therefore we ignore the altcoins, we ignore the shit coins, and we stay on Bitcoin.
Exactly, man. You block them. Like, literally, whenever I see one of my followers or one of my people I follow retweet or like anything that is shitcoin related, they get unfollowed, they get blocked. I never want to see that shit again. I want my feed clean, Bitcoin only, no shit. So
Bitcoin maximalist to the end.
To the end. And with that, I think this pod has ended, isn't it?
There you go.
Oh, Ferngate, honestly.
Essentially, it's weird because we all want institutions to buy Bitcoin because numbers go up, and that's how we get to 750. But at the same time, I don't want them to. I want all the plebs to buy it. All the plebs need to get out there and just buy as many fucking sats as they can right now, because the banks and the institutions are coming, and they're going to make these sats so expensive. But yeah, I'm 750. Where are you?
I'm going to probably go like a third of that at 250.
You fucking bad.